Bulldog.
They have this Panther sound effect that is just the cheesiest, stupidest sounding thing. Big voice guy going, Panther goal scored by Sam Reinhart. Where'd you get that thing?
I trapped it. Been keeping it in my bathroom at the motel, feeding it old pizza.
It's Mike Schopp.
If you're calm, that wondrous big cat will be calm too. But if you're scared, that beautiful death machine will do what God made it to do, namely
Schedule has been released. The first day of practice will be Wednesday, July 23rd, St. John Fisher University in Rochester. You can view the full schedule on our website at WGR550.com. The Baltimore Ravens have signed free agent cornerback Jair Alexander to a 1-year, $6 million deal. And the Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions as they defeated the Edmonton Oilers last night 5-1 in Game 6.
Here's Rostarinen. Back out, jump back and score!
It was revealed after the contest that Matthew Tkachuk played through a torn adductor muscle along with a sports hernia injury. After losing 5-4 last night in Worcester, the Bisons are back in action tonight against the Woo Sox, looking to even the series. First pitch is set for 6:45 with a 6:25 pregame over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Uh-oh, guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
Monday, Tuesday, hump day is halfway.
It's Mike Schopp.
Mike. What day is it, Mike?
And the Bulldog.
Hey, guess what day it is? Oh, come on, I know you can hear me.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Guess what today is?
It's hump day.
Woo-hoo!
On WGR
Hump Day!
Sports Radio 550.
Not to be so predictable by leading every show with something from the College World Series. Can a college... So, fly ball to left just now, Coastal Carolina's in the field, guy makes the catch, turns and throws it into the crowd. At the College World Series, are baseballs like in the majors where they're just not... We have an infinite supply? Can a college player just throw the ball to the fans like anytime he wants?
Depends on how
no
much.
Repercussions?
It depends how much name, image, and likeness money they have.
The left fielder on Coastal Carolina, I'm guessing, has not a lot.
And it gets taken out. He's on the hook for that ball. I think that's how that works.
Where is the line drawn? Like the Bison's left fielder could do it, right? He makes a catch running toward the line, makes a catch to end the inning, flips the ball to a fan. That's probably no problem.
I think so. Yeah, I've seen lots of players do that at Bison's games.
We had the guy who wrote the book about the Batavia Muck Dogs.
Mm-hmm.
I think I remember when they were around that if you got a foul ball, you could exchange it for tickets.
All right.
They wanted the balls back.
They were hoarding them maybe.
I think they needed them.
Protecting the allotment they had.
They didn't have all that they would need.
Right.
If you wanted to trade it in for tickets, I think you could do that.
They would treat the baseballs like a lot of golfers treat a water hole. Let me reach into my bag and grab one of these scuffed up ones I found. And use this in case it goes in the water. Because I don't want to hit the $3 ball into the water. That's for sure.
If they had to, I guess maybe they would have to do that. But so I think it's single A. At least then, it wasn't just throw the ball to the fans anytime you want. College World Series, I don't know. It doesn't seem like nothing.
It's just all gotten so big.
It doesn't seem like nothing to me.
Not a care in the world. How's things on your side of the room over there? You notice anything?
Your hair is wet.
I absolutely reek.
Oh.
I don't want to move. Every time I move, I cleaned myself. I did my usual morning workouts, but I had a little extra time, extra hour, just the way my day fell. Like, okay, well, I went and had a lesson yesterday from Jeff Meadis, golf pro, works with the Tee to Green crew here at WGR. Let me go to the range and try to apply some of the things I got from my lesson.
Sure.
And I knew it was warm out, but I thought, that's fine. I've done this before on my way into work. Let's go. 45 minutes, hit a bucket, and, yeah, fine. Ugh. It was so hot. I think I sweated almost right through my shirt before I even realized it was happening. And there's no recourse now, right? I get done. It's 2:00. I'm coming here. I mean, I could have gone home and texted you. I'm going to work from home today.
No, you know,
because I smell terrible.
In the pre-COVID, what you could do, and maybe this would have been something that I've done for some reason before, or some reason like that, is you go to promotions and you ask for like the Kiss T-shirt.
A shirt.
Yeah, let me have one of those Wolf T-shirts.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Like, sure, just keep it. And at least you do that.
Yeah,
but
that might have
nobody's
worked
here anymore, so
Yeah.
that's not an option that you have.
Yeah,
unless you have the keys.
You walked by a couple times, and I've been
Self-conscious.
wincing every time you walked by. Like, oh,
I might do it again.
Because if you meant was it last week one day we both did yard work and we smelled like gasoline. I'm sorry if I smell like gas. I never have to walk over to your side of the room. So I never pass you. You'll walk past me on the way out the door here, just the way the room's configured. But it's never really going to be much of a problem for me if you smell bad. But I feel like I don't know.
Well, if you want updates, I'm happy to.
Just hope there's no breeze drifting your way, because
there's never a breeze in here.
I feel disgusting right now.
It's always hot and no airflow. So don't worry about. Well, I'm not sure that's good, but that's
right.
Don't worry about a breeze.
Yeah,
pretty sure. I looked up the history of the Conn Smythe Trophy today. Sam Bennett wins. Interesting, we talked about it some yesterday and a couple of other times leading up to the end of the series. McDavid didn't get a single vote, first, second, or third. It's 5-3-1. They do points. 18 voters. And he wasn't on a single ballot, McDavid. I guess I didn't see it. But last night was like, after that game, you really couldn't justify him. Just, they got whipped again. They couldn't make any plays. And Owen and I were talking about this as we were watching the game, because, it's 2-0. And he says, this feels like it's over. I'm like, I know, but all they really need, I know, and it looks like it doesn't look good. Like Edmonton's not really doing anything, and we just saw this game in game 5 Saturday night, where a lead, and you got them in a headlock, and it's over for the most part. Game 4 was 3-0 after 1, though.
Right, that's what I said, something to that effect. And really, all they need here, I know they won't get the crowd going because they're in Florida, but all that team needs is one McDavid play. And to make it 2-1, and him yelling, "Let's blank and go" or something, and maybe they'll get going here, and it's 2-1. But what Owen said then was, yeah, but none of them they've been close to making good plays, but they keep getting broken up, and you don't really get full marks for almost. You got to make the play. Great defensive play by Forsling, great defensive play by Reinhart, great plays that looked dangerous that turned into nothing burgers because they kept getting defended at the last moment. Yeah, he didn't have a great game at all. And I don't know, maybe it was, going to be tough. We talked about this yesterday with our guest. Winning the losing player on the losing team like last year, winning it again, would that be harder for him to do this year? His stats weren't as good as last year either. And in this final, he only had 3 goals, I think, total in the final. So, I didn't like his chances really at all. I think they needed to win that game for him to, for them to have a chance to win the series, obviously, and then have a look at it. But they had a bad night.
Last 30 Conn Smythe presentations, it's 29 different winners.
Who is the repeat?
I'll give you a second if you want it. The only person to have won more than one of the last 30, I believe, I did this just by looking at it.
Oh, it's going to be Crosby when they went back-to-back.
Is somebody who won consecutive years, and it's Crosby. That's it. I don't think anyone else has 2, other than Crosby, since Patrick Waugh, who won 3. And his career is cool for this. 86, 93, 01. It's almost like Jack Nicklaus or somebody who spaced out.
Right.
So good for so long that he's got 3 Conn Smythe Trophy wins over a span of 15 years. Before him, Mario won back-to-back in the early 90s for Pittsburgh, and then before him, you've got Gretzky and other guys, maybe Bernie Parent, who had won multiple. But it's only been Crosby in 30 years to have won 2. Well, which team, Florida or Edmonton, which team is the better topic?
I think that the champs are, although Edmonton is not uninteresting for sure. I mean, they are still going to have these two kingpin players. I don't know. I'm not.
For how long?
Good question. I don't know. There is. Yeah, this happens everywhere, I guess. But getting to the finals in back-to-back years and losing, to me, and not that anybody's arguing this point, but is a very different thing than stuck in a place where you can't get to the playoffs, like the Sabres have been and were when they had, their lottery guys, Reinhart and Eichel, at the top of their roster. Now they have other lottery guys at the top of their roster in Dahlin and Power, but that's a very different existence. Like I don't know that Edmonton. I would at this point, and I don't know anything. I haven't read anything. I don't know if McDavid's even been asked this question. The speculation just sort of happens, I think, somewhat organically. I just would be stunned if he tried to push his way out of there. They're close. Like get a goalie. Do something about that. It was a problem for them last year, even though Skinner stabilized and he was pretty decent in the finals for them last year, I thought. But boy, he wasn't good last night at all. The third goal was just ridiculous play by him. This easy softball throw in from the blue line that he just blockers right to Sasha Barkov uncovered in front of him. Like, what are you doing, dude? Catch that puck. So they should be able to keep going, and I wouldn't think he would need a lot of convincing that they can do it. I mean, they are very close, I think, even though this game got pretty sideways in the end. But I don't know. I think Edmonton has to tweak, but to me they should be able to just keep going.
He has leverage though. Like he has major leverage.
One more year.
1 year left. It's 10 years now. I know. You know that. McDavid and Eichel and just how memorable that offseason was, the previous season was. They're 10 years in. So here's McDavid at 28. And I don't know, like, does anybody, he seems pretty private. Does anybody really know, like, what he wants? I mean, to your point, I don't think it's much to convince, to be able to convince someone that Edmonton can win with him there. I mean, I don't think that would be that hard. But he has to want them over literally everybody else. Like, if he gets to free agency, everybody will want him. And so that's what Edmonton has to deal with now is, like, not whether he wants to push his way out. I wouldn't expect that to happen either. But they either have to make the biggest deal ever for him this summer,
right?
Or maybe he walks, or he's traded. Then it's Gretzky, like that. He's traded. So, it's up to McDavid.
Yes,
like what he wants. If he's the type to want to, he doesn't need a bigger spotlight. Edmonton is really there's no smaller one, and he just wants to play out his career, like a good boy for one team. Like others have done. Fans tend to like that, but certainly there are a lot of guys who are not wired like that, and he certainly also wouldn't have to do it.
Yeah.
So
I just feel like it's a lot to sort of tag him with the he can't win there, or they can't win, like they're disadvantaged, and so I don't see that at all. So that doesn't mean he couldn't privately just think, yeah, it might be better if I went and did this in L.A. or something, marketing-wise, like, not to follow the Gretzky trail eventually. I guess that's probably why I mentioned L.A. first, but I was just thinking of a big market. But I don't know.
Anywhere he wants.
Yeah, anywhere he wants. I guess I'm sitting here right now, my opinion is I'd be surprised if he wanted to use any of that leverage. I would think they make him the highest paid player in the history of hockey this offseason and just sort of keep going.
Also, any other team would also make him the highest paid player in the history of hockey.
Yes.
So that's Edmonton has what? What are Edmonton's pros in the McDavid analysis? He being there can't be one of them because we're talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
So what are their advantages? The legacy stuff, Draisaitl, like they have a very good team that, of course, changes over time. I mean, it's not permanent.
I think he likes the coach. I think the scene is good. I think ownership, I think there's a lot of comfort, I think, in being an Edmonton Oiler. Practice facilities, the whole, like, all the stuff. I think they've gone all out. I don't at all get the impression that they're just sort of sliding by because they've got Connor McDavid on their team. I think they've done, what any top shelf team in the league does.
Well, isn't it? That's granted, all of that. I mean, what coaches anywhere for more than like 3 years? But like, okay, he's there now. If that's a factor, if that's a plus,
right?
Knobloch, if that's a plus for the Oilers,
I think it is for now. Yeah,
it might be. I think this is sort of a Buffalo kind of thing where it's not because we're paranoid. It's because so many players have left. And that has not that's still continuing, even maybe in the very present for the Sabres, that's still continuing. Josh Allen, we might have been nervous for a minute when Josh Allen got good. Like, what happens? Football's different, and he has never given off any sense that he's not happy playing for the Bills. I'm not even going to start down that road because there's no reason to, right? And he's signed for several more years anyway. I think as It's not really like a good or bad thing, wanting to play for someone else. You could just want it for your life, not because you're bitter about anything or negative about anything. You could just want, a new challenge somewhere else. So the Oilers, I don't know, but it feels like maybe they could be in tough here with him. And it might have to happen kind of quickly. It ended last night, but draft, free agency, moves are made. When can they make a deal with him?
July 1. As soon as the new league year. Like that's the case with Alex Tuck. That's the case with everybody.
How would you feel if it didn't get done by September?
Really bad.
So
really bad.
They have until then.
Sure, I think they have the summer to figure something out, and I would expect it to happen. And I don't know. You're not necessarily saying different. I mean, it could take a turn. I feel like any speculation about that is completely without any substance. I think it's just circumstantial, and I think in a town like this where we live that life with our hockey players, especially, that you're sort of predisposed to like, oh, he's going to get tired of that, and like I just don't know. I just have not seen or heard anything that indicates that could be coming. That doesn't mean it isn't. He could have the tightest lid on it of all time. And as we now get to it is when the questions will start to arise, and maybe all the answers won't be what Edmonton fans want to hear. I don't know. But my guess sitting here today is that they'll just figure it out.
I don't think it's necessarily interesting or important that nothing has been said yet, because nothing can be done yet, right? Like they're not allowed to make a deal with him. And McDavid probably has only ever said the right things. Like, I'm not thinking about that now, right? I mean, they're in the finals. So you could understand it if he wasn't thinking about it. He might be a little bit. I mean, most people would be a little bit, but I'm not taking questions about my future. We're in the finals. Right? So it couldn't really have been anything, like, what did you say? Speculation. It had no chance of being anything more than that before now or until 2 weeks from now.
Well, sure. As far as like the team negotiating and feeling worried about it, but there are insiders around the league that would know people in McDavid's inner circle, and if there were rumblings at all, then to me, I'd be paying attention and I'd be kind of on alert. Hey, this. I don't know, this could go badly. It sounds like, his family or whatever, something, but there's been nothing. That's what I mean by that. Like, I think it's all just connecting dots. His contract is coming up a year from now. They lost again. It's a small market. Is there going to be trouble? I mean, I don't have to be right. I just don't see. There's just been nothing to get the ball rolling other than the circumstances.
And I'm just saying that is what it is, and now it starts. And they don't have much time before. It's not even this. I was going to say they don't have much time before you would get to a point like you agreed to in September. You'd be like really nervous if there's no deal done there, or at least a little bit nervous. But it's not even. It won't even take that long. It's as simple as this is not just because the Oilers are a smaller market. This could be this is anybody. It's as simple as we will offer you anything you want, yes or no. And no is a plausible answer for this player in that market to offer, I think. I mean, most guys would not say no to that. Here's the absolute most we're allowed to do.
Write the numbers in.
Blank check. You offer Peterka a blank check. Maybe he's not so miserable, if that's even fair to say about him. Like maybe all right, I guess I'll become the highest paid player in the NHL ever. Like that would never happen. It never happen here. Especially no matter if it's McDavid, it wouldn't happen here. Maybe I don't know. That's a question. But like, here's the absolute. This can be pretty. Take your time.
Yeah.
Maybe you would. What would you expect to have happen? McDavid would take these couple of weeks, go to a happy place, unwind, and really think about all this. And maybe even July 1 isn't early enough for him to necessarily have an answer.
I imagine what could get the ball rolling one direction or another, one sentiment versus the other, positive versus negative, toward him staying, I imagine they're going to have some sort of end-of-season stuff with the GM and with the coach, like teams always do. I mean, they'll be the last team to do it, locker clean-out day, right? So I imagine he talks then. Certainly the GM and the coach will be asked questions about his status, the GM especially, and what is that? I've already talked to his agent. We're gonna meet in a week or whatever. Is some timeline offered, or is it just we haven't even really gotten to that yet, or something? Just more vague than you'd like. But some kind of clue will come within the next, I would think, 48 hours or so when they get around to doing that sort of thing. And that might be the first, link in the chain to get us to whatever the destination is going to be.
The GM, who is the GM? I don't know who the GM is, but whoever he is, he's got to figure out how he wants to play this in terms of the public. It's only probably the one. Well, there's the draft coming up. There'll be multiple interviews, probably whoever it is would do, but he could be sort of like how McDavid would talk. Yeah, we'll have meetings, we'll have conversations. He's great, obviously. We will, it'll work itself out. But I'm optimistic. The kind of sort of generic commentary you would often hear in that from a GM in that kind of situation. Or he could say, he's the best player in the world. Whatever he wants is his if he wants it.
It's Stan Bowman, by the way.
Stan Bowman, who I used to sit near at Sabres games when he was a little kid.
Right.
Stan Bowman, he's got a lot of experience with this kind of things, but he could just go plain. These things we don't Brandon Bean. We don't negotiate in public, but we're going to meet, and I'm optimistic. Or whatever he wants is his if he wants it.
Right.
I think a GM would get judged on how forward,
right,
I think maybe is the word, they would be about this. But you also wouldn't want to sound so desperate, I guess. There's no reason to worry about that. Nobody would criticize the Oilers for being that way about him. Name it. Blank check, name it.
Right.
And the one thing that could do, if he talks like that, the GM talks like that publicly, is it could maybe press McDavid in a way that he wouldn't want to do through the media, right? You're putting the pressure on him by saying that. Then it's do you want to be a bad guy and leave? And then ultimately we're talking about trades and all that. Quote bad guy. Yeah. If he says
sure,
if he talks we'll do anything he wants. And then, what if the player is thinking there's nothing that's not going to be enough?
Yeah.
Because I'll get all of that and other new perks and a new lease on everything if I'm playing somewhere else.
Yeah. Another piece that has me thinking that this won't turn into any kind of a standoff is that they just got Draisaitl done last offseason. And look, I mean, everybody's got to handle their business, right? So it doesn't have to be that these two guys are joined at the hip for their careers. But I feel like with as tight as they have been portrayed as being, that Draisaitl would not have signed up for 8 more years if he sensed that McDavid was thinking of pulling the chute after his contract is up. But I don't have to be right about that. He also could have just gotten his money and maybe be worried, like, oh, at least I got mine. But I don't think he makes that big commitment without some sense, if not flat out knowledge, that McDavid's going to do likewise.
Maybe. Those things do change, and they have been in the finals 2 years in a row. So different than with the Sabres, whatever our closest examples over the years might be. It's been pretty good.
Yeah.
We're close to winning.
Well,
maybe we win.
Conference finals 2 years in a row, and then the co-captains leave. Like, that happened here.
Yeah.
So that's not the finals. But that was their contracts were up.
Might have been different if they were a year apart.
Yeah. Or if the team had acted like they tried to act with Drury during that season, get him extended before he got there, but that got botched and that never happened.
Is that right? That is what happened, isn't it?
Yep.
Sal coming up at 4 today. The Bills announced the schedule for training camp. We'll talk about that and more with him. 803-0550. Morning Guys had a clever idea about McDavid this morning I want to mention as a compliment to them. We will look for your calls as we go through the day. Of course, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
sort of closing, and this is an odd one. It's closing not because of his age, but because of his contract status. There's an awful lot of talk within the sport that if they don't win this year, McDavid might look elsewhere. He still has a year left on his contract after this season. But if you're the Oilers and you know you can't re-sign him, you can't let him go to free agency and not get anything for the greatest player in the game.
Steve Levy. Well,
that's the first talk I heard of it. That doesn't mean that he's not right. He's saying there's been a lot of talk. Like, that's what he's saying, right? I'd like to know how someone who pays as much attention to the sport and the media around the sport as I do, not to brag, but I mean, I'm looking for stuff. Like, I've just not heard a word about it until he said that yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever that was. I feel like it makes sense, though, that it wouldn't be reported on, really, because there isn't anything you can do. Like, it's just some amount of guessing toward what does McDavid want. And here's Steve Levy talking like he knows that, there's a chance he wants to be done there. I think maybe we had this with Eichel a little bit for a little while, where we kind of heard stuff about that Eichel wanted to be out. But we didn't, beat the drum. I didn't anyway. I didn't feel like it was enough for me. I mean, I'm not even a reporter, but it wasn't enough for me to want to speculate about out loud, because, that has an impact. That can have an effect. So I think if whoever the voices are that mean something to you that they have not been talking about McDavid, it's maybe because they don't feel like it's right to. Because it's still not at a time where, until today or until July 1st, where it's this is really not the story yet. And it will become the story. Now it is. Yeah. Now it is. So it's whatever. It's just a debate about whether there have been clues or not yet. And either way, clues or no clues, this is, now it's when it's time to act, or July 1st toward, September will be when it's time for Edmonton to act. I guess he is such a different case. I mean, he is unquestionably the best player in the sport, maybe the most talented player there's ever been in the sport. And I guess if I'm thinking of the LeBron, Drager, and that group of people. They might lean the way you just described. Let's not make waves here. Edmonton, Canadian team in the final. Let's just stay out of the way and see. Now, the fact that Levy said that on the Jim Rome show this week at some point, again, I don't remember what day it was, but anyway, it's pretty fresh. That should get talked about by all those people when they do their roundtables on TSN. I'm assuming they don't all go out of business because the Cup final ended. The draft is the end of next week, so we're going to be ramping quickly. It's one of the problems with the NHL calendar. I mean, football gets all this credit for having all these different signposts that keep you interested. Hockey's going to jam all of its marquee stuff into 12 days here. It's the cup, the presentation, all of it, who's getting the cup, all that. I love all that. And then it's the draft, and then it's free agency, and then it's cottage season. And it's it's ridiculous. I'm happy to talk about what should be done about that when you want. Okay. Because it's the season being too long. Yes, that's right. You can't push free agency back too much. I mean, it's still only 2 months or 10 or 11 weeks between free agency and, and camp. So there's no room for that to go. You can't move the draft up, to today? Right. It's next Friday. There could have been another game still. Right. So at least they didn't bother with an award show, right? Or they did, but it was... They did a sort of staged surprise events for everyone rather than have that show with some band you've never heard of and a comedian who's not funny. Which I'm glad that they did that instead. But that would have been between last night and the draft. Yes, that's right. So at least maybe that's an improvement. So anyway, all those people will be on the clock here, and there's no way now that subject doesn't come up, and now I'm going to be wanting to pay attention to how they handle it. And really, again, we'll get Stan Bowman is going to, I assume, talk to the media here within the next 2 days and see what the temperature is. What can you read from him when that question comes up? It might just be generic, like we already talked it through last segment. But I just have not heard any of the talk that Levy is alluding to. That doesn't mean I'm not in press boxes, so if the talk is so underneath the reporting level, then I wouldn't have access to it. No one would. He would. He's around that.
It just hasn't been the offseason yet, right? We've been hearing about J.J. Peterka's attitude for like a month. Maybe more. Yeah. Because the Sabres haven't played in literally 2 months. Like this is the offseason. They're well into it. They made a front office hire. Like they're well into it. Anyway, it's just what are we figuring out here? Nothing. Like it's just maybe it's a sign of something, maybe it isn't. But now it starts. And if it gets to the season and he doesn't have a contract, that's a topic every day.
Yes.
He'll go to every road game and be asked about his future, and it'll drive everybody nuts. But that'll happen. Like if he does not have a new deal by then, I think, unless he just like shuts it down, and that becomes its own thing. Where like we're not talking about this. The PR person gets involved, and like that's just like really difficult. We'll see. Florida. So we decided that Florida was the better topic, and then spent the whole time on Edmonton.
Right.
6 years in a row, a Florida team has been in the finals, and they've won 4. Tampa 2 wins, Tampa lost, Florida 2 wins. That's a run. That's 2 different teams.
Yep.
But you love this Panthers team.
I really do. And I was glad the last time we talked about this and them, like, why do I like them, right? They had Brad Marchand, and I still like them. Like, what? And it really does trace back to them having what I would say the courage to blow up a President's Trophy winning team after the 22 season, right? 23, 24, 25, 3 finals in a row. 22, they win the President's Trophy and get bounced in the second round and make that massive trade. They trade Huberdeau to Calgary for Tkachuk and hire Paul Maurice, and that season is a struggle. They're right in it with the Sabres for that last playoff spot, and they get it, and the rest is on the board. All they've done is win and win and win, and I just really admire an organization that can see its way clear to go, well, this is good. Maybe the market they're in has something to do with it, a lot to do with it, in 2 ways. One is you have the cover of not having a super rabid, passionate fan base and media covering you and scrutinizing you and criticizing you if you trade away one of the leading scorers and your leading scorer and blow up your team after 100 and some point season in the President's Trophy. But you also, I think, you could look at it from the standpoint of you have the opportunity to do that and pull it off and not, you just don't. I had a second point and I don't remember it, so I'm just rewording the first one. But I just really like that they did what they did.
Well,
how they did it.
Your memory is short because if I remember correctly, the Sabres blew up a President's Trophy team also.
Yeah, not by choice, but yes, that's
they
right.
Did.
Yeah,
they managed. They might have been the last team to do it before Florida.
Right.
Well, Florida has. They have, I think, what you have to have. The high end. I mean, they've got a few, Barkov, Reinhart. They've got a few top-tier players. That's where the Eichel lottery existence, that the trap for me was that wasn't enough. I would still say you can't win without it. I mean, all these teams that win have stars, but Florida has everything else, too. Travis predicted that the third line would be the difference in the series, and it was. Right? I mean, they could not handle that. That line scored on Edmonton, and Edmonton could not keep up with that. And, for a decade, the Sabres have mostly been getting run over on those bottom 6 forward positions. And so, Florida is kind of perfect. The goalie, proven, great. Defensively, fine to great. It's perfect. And the fan base thing, it just feels like so long ago. It was. That's why it feels this way. So long ago that we would condescend to the Southeast, the Sun Belt teams. It's totally over now. The fact that they don't have TV ratings, well, why would people in Florida watch them on TV? Like some would, but I would have watched the finals if I could. There's people who couldn't watch it because they didn't have the channel it was on. Then also, it's a different lifestyle there. So I don't know. That doesn't mean a lot to me. Watching their games, I've done it. Watching their games, there's no doubt about the fan base. I'm not sure how massively big it is.
Big enough to fill the building.
The building rocks.
Right.
I mean, the building is a great looking atmosphere in Florida. So, like you kind of said before, for certain players, that might be all they need. That was a Reinhart thing, maybe. That was a Drury thing. The fishbowl.
Yeah, right.
Element. So, yeah, I'm jealous. I mean, they have it all.
Yeah, and what also, I mean, to have the amount of they're right. They have the star. You have to have that. And what the star power, what the top affords them, they can. I mean, Reinhart got really hot, obviously, at the end here. He scored in Game 5, scored 4 goals last night. Sure, 2 into the empty net, but whatever. So it wasn't like he didn't produce offensively. But the front end of this series a lot of it was about how Barkov and Reinhart, all they're really doing is devoting their energy to Draisaitl and McDavid. They're just trying to keep them from scoring, and they've got enough. That's where that third line comes in, and Bennett comes in. He scores 15 goals in the playoffs. I mean, holy cow. The guy scores 20 goals in a whole season. He gets 15 in the playoffs. You've got guys in roles that just fit so perfectly that it just, everybody, I think, knows what they're being asked to do. There's no confusion, and there's no, it doesn't seem, I'm not getting power play time, right? It's all set, right? The top, you know who the top is. The middle is productive, and the bottom, they're not going to go spending money on grizzled veteran guys to be there. They're just going to get guys that can skate and play a good two-way game, be physical, and make $800,000. And there's my bottom. There's my fourth line.
Tampa was this too, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, sure.
They weren't sort of old-fashioned when it came to their bottom 6. They were just good.
Yeah.
Fast and strong and good.
Yeah. And, that changes over time. You get good, and then guys want to get paid or deserve to get paid, and it gets harder to keep that all together. But what you got to do is just cycle that through.
Right. Then you move them.
And just change it out. Now I think it gets pretty tricky because, I don't know if Bennett is he's such a great playoff performer, but he's had 51 points as his career high. And there are people out there talking about 7, 8, 9, 10, lure him away. Big money. If somebody gives him $9 million a year, I think they're going to regret it. Someone other than Florida, because the role, unless they have the team set up for him to slot into a role where it's not going to be a problem if he only gets you 50 points in the regular season, because it's all about what's going to happen in April, May, and June, then maybe that works. It's just there should be a buyer beware there, because his role on that team at that kind of salary is a little nutty. So I don't know what they're even going to do. I mean, he's going to get paid some way, shape, or form. Whether he takes less to just stay there because it's so good and the role is perfect for him.
Is he up?
I don't know. Yeah, he's a UFA.
Okay.
So, Toronto could blow him out of the water with some contract. And if he's not cast in the right spot, look out.
Makes sense. He's the first player in history to go 10 years into his career and have the Conn Smythe trophy be his first trophy. Everybody else that's won the Conn Smythe had won another big award already in their career.
I talked to Sal. I was a guest on. I made my debut on the Extra Point Show. I had never been on Sal's show.
Fantasy stuff?
Today I was on. Yeah, nothing but I did squeeze in a point about Bennett. How of the that's the same draft. They've got 3 of the top 4 from that draft with Bennett, Reinhart, and Ekblad.
And Draisaitl is the other one.
Draisaitl's the other one, and he was playing against him. 3 of those 4, Reinhart is not as much of a slam dunk as Draisaitl and Ekblad were. Like they showed up and became cornerstones of the franchises that drafted them. Reinhart was good here. He's turned into a superstar in Florida. Bennett looked kind of like a bust. Like, look at his career in Calgary.
Oh, yeah.
There are some bleak-looking years there. It just was not happening. But he gets here and starts sucker punching people in the playoffs and scoring big goals and growing the big beard, and suddenly he's like a modern-day Claude Lemieux or something. But it took him a while to get to where his draft status indicated he was headed. It was a long road for him to get there.
For sure. Sal Capaccio at 4, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR. The hockey season is finally over. Florida in 6, back-to-back.
That pass that Ekholm threw across to Bouchard was worse than the effort Ekholm made to try to check Reinhart after the steal. He had time. There was a stick, but he waited too long and then threw a pass at Bouchard's shin pads. Like, here you go! Good luck over there, buddy! And I'm sure Bouchard is sort of he's that guy in Edmonton that he's just riding coattails. He's not that good defensively. He's one of those guys, right? On a good team, a great team, he's like kind of the whipping boy guy. And I'm sure he got a lot of grief for that play, but Ekholm was way worse twice on the play. All Bouchard does is try to feel the puck that is rifled at his shin guards, and only has time to just do next to nothing with it, so Reinhart strips him. And the pass and the whiff by Ekholm, just brutal.
Which goal is that?
That's the first goal of the game.
1-0? Early.
Yeah.
Early?
Yeah. Just not. I mean, that's your Ekholm's the dude there. Like they got him back. Like, okay, he's here. He matters. He's the playoff guy, and just a terrible play.
We'll bring on Sal next. Bills camp schedule released. Talk about the preseason a little bit. Also, they've got apparently a joint practice with the Bears scheduled in August at Chicago's camp. That and more with Sal Capaccio after sports. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Buffalo Bills training camp schedule has been released. The first day of practice will be held Wednesday, July 23rd at St. John Fisher University in Rochester. You can view the full schedule on our website, WGR550.com. The Baltimore Ravens have signed free agent cornerback Jair Alexander to a 1-year, $6 million contract. The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions as they defeated the Edmonton Oilers last night 5-1 in Game 6.
Here's Rostarinen. Rostarinen. Back out. Jump back and shot. Score!
It was revealed after the contest that Matthew Tkachuk played through a torn adductor muscle along with a sports hernia injury, and Sam Bennett claimed the Conn Smythe trophy after his 15-goal performance throughout the playoffs, including 5 in the final. After a 5-4 loss last night in Worcester, the Bisons are back in action tonight against the Woo Sox, looking to even the series. First pitch is set for 6:45 with a 6:25 pregame over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
You know, Sal, like many, might be wondering what is wrong with the Yankees. 29 consecutive scoreless innings. And I watched them on Friday night in Boston. It was crochet, but this was a pretty cool moment when Judge homers in the ninth. But that was a 1-0 game until the ninth, and they lose 2-1. And I think Sal should know that I'm the problem because I have been watching the Yankees. Friday, and then these 2 Angels games have been on in my house, and I have only seen them score 1 run on that Judge homer, which, again, was pretty cool. So I don't know what the other leading theories are, Sal, but there's one more for you. It's my fault.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you watching the Yankees has now led to them being shut out 3 consecutive games. I mean, Judge has been so good this year, and he just went 1 for 12 against the Red Sox with 9 strikeouts. He hasn't been good the last couple of nights either, and I think it just shows like how much he means. Now, look, the other guys in the lineup, they've actually had a pretty good offense, some pretty good offensive balance, but it's all a bit of a butterfly effect in baseball, as you guys know. When you have that one guy who can really hit, it kind of changes how other guys are pitched to, right? So I do think that's a big part of it. But it's also, it's a 162-game season, and sometimes you have a collective funk. Just sometimes you have a collective breakout with a lot of guys. I'm just hoping they're in a collective funk right now. They lost 9 in a row 2 years ago, and it was like, man, I can't believe that happened. So 5 right now, and an Angels team that they should be beating. So yeah, I'm upset too. I mean, last night as soon as I got to it, we were outside, and I'm like, okay, well, Yankees started a little while ago. Bam, I look, it's 3-0 in like the second or third inning, whatever, or 1-0, and then it got to 3-0 later, and it was so disappointing because I'm to the point now where I'm like, I don't know if they can score runs, and they didn't score runs.
Last night was almost incredible because, like, oh, Hendricks, now it'll break.
Just putting it on a tee for you, basically, yeah.
And it didn't. So, I was going to say something else about it, but it would just be piling on. So they're still in first place. It's a baseball thing. I mean, it's not even necessarily any particular pattern. The Angels, I want to call them Anaheim, but they're not Anaheim. Mm-hmm. The Angels, Washington, the manager, is putting Judge on with nobody on base. Like
oh my God.
At least once in these 2 games, they walked him with nobody on base. So he's obviously important. Okay, well, that's covered, right, Bulldog? We've covered the Yankees.
I'm good.
Appropriately?
Yeah.
Adequately? The training camp schedule came out today for the Bills, July 23rd. Mm-hmm. Sal, it's 2 weeks and a day, training camp. I don't know if it's the shortest ever, but it's 2 weeks, 1 more day, and then it's over.
So, I mean, time-wise, I don't know if it's the shortest ever. I would guess no. I would say the reason why is I just did the research before coming on with you guys. It's the exact same number of practices for the last 2 years. It's 3 years in a row that it's 11 total, but 1 is closed to the fans, and it's just media only. They do that because they like to stay off the grass, and move over to the field to kind of let the grass kind of rejuvenate a little bit, and they go over to the other field. They do that sometimes, and they do it a lot of times for like to have some corporate partners out there and just have more of an intimate setting. Either way, the point is it's 11 total practices, 10 open to the media, and then another practice back here in Buffalo at Orchard Park, the return of the blue and the red, they call it. I don't know. I think we can go back. I went back to 2022. That was longer. I think there were 14 or 15 out there. That's the last time it was a little bit more lengthy. Sometimes it might be a little bit determined on when that first preseason game is or where it is. This year it happens to be on Saturday back at Orchard Park. So they'll break on Thursday the 7th, and they will not go back to training camp. That'll be their last day out there.
Yeah, it makes sense that with so much that has changed with what training camp is needed for, right? Guys are in shape. It's not as thoroughly hard hitting as it was even 15 or 20 years ago. That they would sort of like McDermott is on the record of liking to get the team away. He likes going away, but I guess it makes sense that it would be shorter as you go here because you have such great facilities at home now too, and as much as you want the players to get that taste of being in the dorms and all that stuff, you've got a veteran team with the Super Bowl in mind here, and I just don't think you need guys living in dorms for a month, so it makes sense that it's been like they're getting the best of both. You still get to go away and that camaraderie or whatever they're looking for, what benefit there is to being away, but it's also shorter, which I think is suitable for a team that's as experienced and as ready to do what the Bills are trying to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of layers to this, and we go back to McDermott and Bean. Maybe 5-6 years ago, we would talk to them about what's the future at St. John Fisher look like. I can't imagine they want to go there, knowing the kind of people they are, wanting everything kind of right here and all the facility they just built. And they to their credit, they kept telling us, no, that's not true. Like, we like going there. We like going there because of the camaraderie it builds and having the team together. And they stayed true to their word about it. Mm-hmm. But what happened was it got a little shorter, that's all. So, yes, I believe them. They want to go out there. They like going out there for those reasons. And they've always maintained that. And I do think there's knowing the way these men operate and knowing the way what they believe about a team and how to build a football team and the foundation for that team coming at that time of year. They believe being together in dorm rooms and meeting rooms and going out and hanging out with each other and all those things that go along with it are very important. At the same time, they also recognize that they don't have quite the facilities there that they have back here in Buffalo. And by the time the preseason rolls around, which is game number 1, August 9th, okay, time to come back to Buffalo, start getting things ready. I'll also say, remember, there's only 3 preseason games now. Things have changed in that regard, right? Where you don't have that extra game. So you kind of the season kind of creeps up a little bit quicker, not necessarily date-wise, but game-wise. I think that's part of it as well. And then, guys, there's always the business side of things. And when Russ Brandon actually started training camp at St. John Fisher back in, 2000, that was the first year they went out there, and he had ties to the area, obviously, in the college. That was to really help market the team on that side of the state ever since they had been in Fredonia and over here. And it really was good for the Bills, and it's been good for the Bills. And that part of the state is very important to the Bills. That area of the state is very good to the Bills. And I'm not saying it's the only reason, but I do think it matters for business purposes.
Yeah, I think that all makes sense. I was skeptical. I thought McDermott largely was just saying what needed to be said because of the relationship that he inherited. Mm-hmm. And as soon as the opportunity was going to present itself, they'd be in Orchard Park, and that would be that. And I was wrong. They have kept going and kept renewing this, and so clearly they see a benefit. Otherwise, I don't think they would keep going because they've had opportunities to get out.
Other teams have gone the other way, though. They have stopped doing it. A lot of teams don't go away now. More teams don't go away than do go away now. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, everybody went away, right? When we were growing up, it's like everybody had a camp somewhere. Now that's not the case. These teams have their own training facilities. They have their own practice facilities. Their meeting rooms are so incredible. Heck, the Bills are lending theirs to the Sabres for their draft room coming up, right? All these things that are happening that you can have at your own facility. But the Bills have been one of the teams and still are one of the teams that, stay somewhere else. It's just far enough to get away. It's just close enough to come back as well. That's also a part of it. I always used to say that when I went to Syracuse University. Like, it's just far enough that I'm away from my parents, but just close enough I can come home to give my laundry to my mom and say, can you help me out a little bit, right? And get some money or whatever. Right. It was always that thing. I think the true test is going to be once everything is done at the new stadium. Right. I would predict, as I sit here, that next year they're back at St. John Fisher. It's the first year in the stadium. There's a lot that's still going on. They're still buttoning up. There's a lot of ways that they have to kind of figure everything out. And I'm not telling you I think they're going to leave St. John Fisher, anytime after that. But I do think that will be the first real test of, okay, you'll still have the facility across the street with the practice facility. We know that's staying. Everything they use at One Bills Drive is staying other than the stadium. The only thing that's different is the stadium for game day will be across the street.
Mm-hmm. Still funny that the Cowboys go to California.
Right.
For their training camp. That's a tradition that's lasted. Sal Capaccio with us. Was this news today, or did we already know that the Bills will practice with the Bears in Chicago the weekend before a day or two, at the most probably two, before their game against the Bears? The Bears game is on a Sunday night. I think it's a national TV game. But I'm seeing that the Bills will practice with the Bears at least on the Friday before.
It's not news if you've been listening and following me, I guess I'd say. I mean, we did put this out. I did tweet about this a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Am I allowed to miss something here? I mean, you make it sound like I wouldn't know anything you've said. That's not the case.
It's all good. It's all good. Things are happening at a rapid pace, and sometimes they're not like officially official until the teams put it out there. I do think the Bears. What happened, Mike, was the Bears confirmed it a couple weeks ago and had talked about it, and Ben Johnson had talked about it because what happened was the Bears. They will have both the Bills and Dolphins as training camp partners and having joint practices. So they were asked about it. Our buddy Chris Emma of The Score out in Chicago, he wrote an article about it actually a couple of weeks ago. And then the last day of minicamp, we talked with Brandon Bean, and I asked him about it, and he talked about it and confirmed it. This was last week. And he said, we're going out there, and, this is what we hope to get from it and what we've got in the past. And, the way the schedule is going to line up is basically – the team will fly out on Thursday, August, that would be the 14th. There will be a joint practice on the 15th, which is a Friday. The team will have off on the 16th, off in the sense of, not having a practice against the Bears. And then they'll have that Sunday night game on national television on the 17th. It'll be very, very similar to what they did against the Pittsburgh Steelers last year.
Okay. And that'll be it for that, right? If they were doing any more of that kind of thing, we would know that already with the schedule being released like it has been today.
That is correct. And I thought it was interesting on Bean's answer when I asked him last week, what are you getting out of it? What do you hope to get? What have you gotten? And what he said was the one practice is really good because what happens if you do more than one practice a lot of times, that's when you might get into those situations where it just becomes guys getting after each other too much. You have to keep stopping practice because if one side gets the better of another one day, you're looking for them the next day, right? Oh, we got to get after them. It gets a little bit more intense from a standpoint of maybe uncontrollable in some ways. So if you just have that one practice and you have some one-on-ones and some 7-on-7 and you're out of there after 3 hours, bam, you're all done with it, and that's a good test. And I think it's a good test for the Bills defense to go against a Ben Johnson offense, by the way, in a setting like that. I think it's going to be really, they have some real good firepower on that offense, and obviously you'll have the practice and then you'll have the game. But I think that's a nice team to kind of do that against.
I love that point. I think Chicago is. I haven't ranked the teams by this, but thinking of the teams that might take the preseason the most seriously. How could Chicago not be up there? Mm-hmm. I mean, Caleb Williams is only in year 2, new coach, Burden and Loveland, high draft picks at skill positions. Not to mention Odunze, who's a second-year player. Like, they have a lot to figure out, and they're coming off such a bad year. We talked last week about how. The Bears averaged 10 yards for the season on their first drive of the game. I mean, they were just Williams was terrible. The offense was just terrible. So, he's a star and everything, I guess. He's franchise quarterback, but I think I'd want him on the field. I don't know. Can I say that? I don't want anybody on the field.
Do you remember, Mike, do you remember last year, the Bears in preseason? Do you remember the Bears? They came here. Do you remember about the Bears in preseason last year?
No.
They were awesome. They had an awesome preseason. And I remember when they came here. It's funny, the Bears were the Hard Knocks team last year. So when they came to Buffalo for preseason, the Hard Knocks cameras came to Buffalo. One of the episodes on Hard Knocks last year was the Bears being in Orchard Park for their preseason game against the Bills. And the Bears came to Buffalo and just destroyed them, 33-6. And this was on the heels of them having an incredible preseason where they started in the Hall of Fame game. They went 4-0. They scored 21, 33, 27, and 34. The last one and they played the Bills, the Bengals, the Chiefs, and the Texans, like four of the top teams in the AFC. And what I remember about that was, especially after the Bills game, I could tell they were planning. They were game planning. They were scripting. And that was, to me, nothing wrong with it. in order to give Caleb Williams confidence, right? Like, hey, let's get this guy some confidence. Let's show him what we can do. And the question was, what would happen when other teams started to do that to them? And then we found out.
Well, yes. I love those examples where a team is great in the preseason and then, bad. They were 4-2 and a play away from winning in Washington for 5-2. The Hail Mary, and they ended up they lost 10 in a row, starting with that. Winning in Week 18 against a Packers team that didn't need it for 5-12. What about the Bills in the preseason? I'm not sure Allen's much worth talking about. Maybe he makes a token appearance in the home game or something, or one of the games. That's happened before. I mean, it doesn't always have to be about wide receivers, but I think we've discussed this. That position will be really interesting this summer, and I feel like the preseason should be some clue into how they want to do it, whether that's Elijah Moore, Palmer, or any of them, really. Even Coleman, Sal. I mean, second-year guy, he's not really locked in yet as a consistent player. So maybe we'll see a lot of movement at wide receiver in the preseason, then we get to decide what we think it means.
I wonder what we'll see and when we'll see if Josh Allen at all. I think, yes, certainly that first game at home against Brian Daboll and the Giants, could be one. It's the home game. It'll be Kids Day because the Bills have one home game, so that makes sense. Maybe you might see Josh Allen. I don't think the Bills have to hold to that necessarily, but it's also early in the preseason. It might make sense. It could be that second game, though. It's at the Bears, and maybe that's why, it's on national TV, 8 p.m. I think it's on Fox. Fox is like, okay, maybe we'll see Josh Allen that night.
You're right, it is on Fox.
Yeah, best chance to see Allen against Caleb Williams. So, let's put that game on national television. Then again, if Allen is playing a lot in that, or getting a lot of practice time against them, maybe not. I think if I remember right, let me go back real quick. Yes, okay, so last year was the Steelers was second week. Allen was supposed to play that game. There was an hour-plus rain delay on the field. He did not play. And the reason was, we were told, because of the field conditions, they did not want to risk anything. So if everything holds true, you have the same situation this year. Home game to start, away game backed up with a joint practice on Friday. I think that would be the most sense and make the most sense if they're going to plan the same kind of way for Josh Allen to start. And then what's interesting to me is that third preseason game. It's against a team they play in the regular season, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I find that to be odd. So I actually texted Mike North about this. I said, I find this odd. Like, who makes the preseason schedule? Do the teams do it? Do the league? He said the league makes the preseason schedule. I always thought the teams had a little bit of a say. That's why you get a lot of these rivalry games.
That's why we had the annual Detroit-Buffalo game because of Ralph Wilson. I always assumed that was ownership's shaking hands on that.
And I bet you it was, Bulldog, to a point of, hey, whatever you do, just make sure we're playing that team, right? And then they kind of give them the nod, okay, it's preseason, we'll let you. We've seen a lot of that around the league. We see the Jets and Giants do that a lot. We've seen a couple of the Florida teams do that a lot. But anyway, what his answer to me was, I'll read it to you. He said, most important thing is to try to minimize travel. Well, that's actually a long trip. And if that brings along a regular season duplicate, so be it, especially given the teams don't show much in August and the regular season game is almost 4 months later with these two teams. So I find that interesting. I do not think we're going to see any starters really play in that game anyway, but especially considering they play each other in the regular season.
Right. I mean, if you go way back, it used to happen all the time. Mm-hmm. They'd play 6 preseason games, and some of those are going to be, probably division games. And it's hard to look up preseason stats. It's not easy. Like regular season, postseason, it's one click, but preseason is tougher. So maybe I'll dig into that a little bit.
Well, as these things go, I think the Tampa game, like you said, Sal, like nobody on either side is going to be playing. It's the end of the line, but. With the Bears and a new coach and all the receivers Mike was talking about and Williams going into his second year and them being at home, I don't know what the Bills will do in that game, but I feel like you're going to get some opportunity to see the real guys there. And the Giants likewise. Like Jackson Dart is the future, at least for now, there with Daboll. And so I would expect, whatever. Maybe it'll be Jameis or Russell Wilson or whatever, but I would expect you're going to get a good, healthy dose of Jackson Dart.
I love a healthy dose of Jackson Dart.
Who doesn't?
No doubt. I like that. I mean, If you go back, it's actually we've been pretty fortunate. Caleb Williams' first start was here in Buffalo, right? When he came last year. I think a couple of years ago was Anthony Richardson. So really funny, right?
Yeah,
when you think about that.
Yeah.
I think RG3 was another one.
Yeah.
I remember being
That's
excited for him, as a rookie with Washington at the stadium. So
there is a very long list. We've actually done this. I've had this on my show and on social with fans. There's actually a really long list of NFL quarterbacks who've made their debut against the Buffalo Bills, and not even just preseason. I'm talking regular season.
Yeah.
Like Jeff George, Drew Bledsoe, Ryan Leaf, even Joe Namath, I guess. Someone, and I went back and looked. That's right.
Marino.
Dan Marino. It's pretty amazing, actually, when you think about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had this conversation a while back and started to hear other names brought up for that. Okay.
Well, you asked me about position. You mentioned Allen. You did mention receiver, so I'll touch on that. Yeah, I think that's like kind of the spot I'm a little focused on. Maybe not because of position battles. I do think there's battles there, but I like the top 5 where they are right now. I just wonder. I'm more intrigued of what I see from guys like Elijah Moore and Joshua Palmer, because on offense, guys, these are the only 2 new guys. That's it.
Right.
Like really, they're the only 2 new guys on the entire offense. If you want to count Caden Prather, that's fine. But I mean, like everybody else is the same in the quarterback room, the running back room, the tight end room. Yes, Jackson Hawes blocking tight end. I get it, but every offensive lineman is back. What else is there to really watch and learn from at the wide receiver, other than that at the wide receiver spot?
Recently in here, we had a topic about things from sports past that you can't believe are real. Just like goalies came up, a few different things. Like, how was it actually like this? How do you think we would have been in the mid-'70s if, say, like this was a job that we had and we're 50 years ago, and the Bills are playing 6 preseason games before their 14 regular season games? Like, would we have just gone crazy? Did people take the starters probably played them all? Did people take the results really seriously in the 70s and early 80s? Probably yes.
I think so. I think I did as a fan. I think you follow the lead of what maybe to an extent whatever the media is saying and what it sounds and feels like. That's how I remember it. I don't remember not caring about preseason until I started doing this for a living in 1995. I think and that first year I missed the preseason. I started the morning after the opener, or the evening after the opener in 95, and by that next summer it was like, are you kidding with these preseason games? Like, it just became a thing then. So prior to like 1995, I think I cared, finger quotes around cared, about what the preseason games look like. Way more than I do now.
I remember the first time I kind of got into like, okay, preseason was when the Bills have been bad for a long time, and then they get Jim Kelly, and then they go out to California and beat the Raiders. Right?
Yes, I was hoping you were going to say that.
Yes, and they beat the Raiders in a preseason game. And I remember sitting, give him a shout out, my buddy Matt Lexner is a teacher and coach at Orchard Park, and he goes, dude, they just beat the Raiders. Like, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, right? We're kids, right? But oh my God, like they might be actually pretty good. Who knows?
Right.
And then I remember the other one I remember was Ron Pitts, Elijah Pitts' son, with a really long pick 6, I think against the Chiefs maybe in a preseason game that got me juiced up. Like, yeah, here we go. Let's go. Like, that happened too.
August 22nd, 1987, Saturday night, Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, the final, Bills 7, Raiders 3.
Oh my God!
And it was
amazing.
the best. It was the best.
That.
Like, I totally remember watching that game. Be like, hang on. As soon as you started going down that road, like, say the Raider game, say the '87 Raider game.
Yes.
Very good. All right. Thank you, Sal. I'll try to do better following you and getting.
No, it's all good. You're allowed every once in a while. You're allowed to be disconnected here and there. I try to be. I won't be around next couple of days, so I'll talk to you guys next week.
In my defense, can it be August joint practices be the story that I miss? I mean, come on. All right.
All right, Sal. We'll talk to you sometime next week.
You got it, guys.
All right, this is Sal Capaccio on the West Here Hotline. His appearances are always brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
I think probably it had already changed, but there was the preseason game when Lossman showed up, and we're all wondering what he's going to look like. So 2004, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember we ended up talking about how we think Mike Mularkey and Mike Shanahan just decided to not do anything in this game. Handshake, wink, wink. We're just not gonna try it all. Whatever it was.
Yeah, we heard something about them talking the night before,
share the plays,
or the day before, or whatever it was that they were trying to decide how. It sounded like the way these teams now are portrayed is arranging these joint practices. Like, what do we want to really get done here? Kind of that I remember that.
Didn't the Bills also play a preseason game in Europe? Berlin, maybe?
Yes.
90, like Super Bowl years?
Yes.
Eagles?
Yes. I don't remember the opponent. I remember them playing a game in Europe.
Okay.
Because it gets referenced, like when they were in London to play Jacksonville those couple of times, once with EJ and once just a couple of years ago. I feel like you get reminded they did play a regular season, or excuse me, a preseason game back in whatever year that was.
Yep. Look that up. 803-0550. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
The first day of practice will be Wednesday, July 23rd at St. John Fisher University in Rochester. You can view the full schedule on our website at WGR550.com. The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions as they defeated the Edmonton Oilers last night 5-1 in Game 6. Sam Bennett claimed the Conn Smythe Trophy after his 15-goal performance in the postseason, including 5 in the final. After losing 5-4 last night in Worcester, the Bisons are back in action tonight against the Woo Sox, looking to even the series. First pitch is set for 6:45 with a 6:25 pregame over on our sister station, the Bet 1520. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Carter Verhaeghe turns, shoots, knocked down by Skinner. Puck is loose. Score! Sent towards the net by Barkov. Reinhart may have gotten a piece of it. The Panthers now lead 3-0.
This is a new one. It's not the Conn Smythe. 4 goals in the clincher from Sam Reinhart. It's a new one.
I was watching. I saw that. That was a terrible job. I think I alluded to that earlier. That was like a muffin thrown at the net from the blue line that Skinner just, he could have caught it. It was such a slow-moving shot. He was just floating to the net.
Been keeping it in my bathroom.
It was more to his blocker side.
It's Mike Schopp.
But still, he just chose to. It looked like a guy who was learning how to. You're working on something in practice. I want you to work on deflecting shots with your blocker to your right. And he just, poof, right to Barkov, bang. Just terrible play.
Terrible.
I missed Reinhardt's hat trick and fourth goal. I dozed off. I was watching. I want to see the cup. I watch a hockey game almost every night during the season. Watching every night during the playoffs. It gets to the end. I know it's late. I need to see it. I want to know who's getting it second. Like, what's the pecking order? The whole thing. Old man complaint. There are like about 150 too many people on the ice for this thing now. Like, you can't even. There are more people in street clothes than there are players. Just horrendous. I mean, I get that the organization wants to celebrate, but
the interns are on the ice.
In the moment right after, can I wait until the handshake? Can I wait until the picture? Just wait. Can you just wait? Let the players like Paul Maurice is Mr. I don't want the coach in the handshake line, although they went through the handshake line yesterday. He deferred to Knobloch. He gestured at him and he went, okay, and he went and got in line. Maurice. This was a thing after the conference final with Brindamore.
I know. I think he's right.
I do too. But, okay, he was polite enough to, Knobloch's got his reasons. They just lost to this team in the final last year. He wants to go through the line. Okay, how in the world is a guy like Paul Maurice not policing the hundreds of other people that are on the ice celebrating his team just winning the Stanley Cup? Give him until the TV coverage is over even. It's just way too many people on the ice.
Well, that's not going to be his call.
I know,
it
but
could be maybe.
He could push the agenda. I just think it looks ridiculous. I want to see the players. That's all nothing against all the other people.
What about the scratches?
Fine. Put a jersey on. They're a part. Yeah, I got no problem with that. They are waiting in the hallway to get out there. They deserve that. I no problem. It's the people in street clothes to me. Again, there should be some. You're going to have media, photographers, but it's just way too much.
How the Stanley Cup presentation goes really should be determined by Buffalo guys.
We have so much experience.
We should be the ones to tell you how the cup works.
Yes, we're
how
experts.
the cup ceremony works.
Yeah. But I love it. I still, despite my my complaints here and the warts that I see on it, I want to see it. It's the culmination. You just get me there. So But I dozed off. I woke up and saw 5-1. I'm like, oh, well, obviously the shutout's gone. I wonder who scored the other Florida goals because, of course, I had some action. Sadly, did not have Reinhart hat trick. I didn't have a Reinhart hat trick bet. I don't think you can make a bet for 4 goals. I don't think that's available.
Ooh, really?
I've never seen it. Because Thompson, one of the times Thompson had a hat trick, he got 4. I think maybe
5.
Right. Maybe,
Columbus?
Yeah, Columbus. There was maybe
was that 5?
Yes.
Okay.
But there was another time I think he also got 4, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, because I don't think I had the Columbus one. The Columbus one might have been where the bet idea started. And
he was on fire then.
One of the other times he had 3, I think he got to 4. And I've looked. I don't think there's a way to bet on a guy, at least not in my FanDuel app.
I would expect you to know.
But
I'm not going to look.
But I wish I'd had, because I did. I had Marchand scoring and Bennett maybe, and I picked a long shot guy from Edmonton like Connor Brown or someone.
The season is at least a month too long.
Yes. Yeah, you
While
mentioned
we're
earlier.
complaining about
Yes,
things,
yes.
The season is at least a month too long. It will never change. It will just get longer. But I don't want to listen to hockey be like, oh, the draft is too soon, or the free agency, like they want to, what's the word, decentralize the draft. I didn't really understand yesterday why they're going back to the other way. But they wanted to decentralize the draft, meaning teams don't all go to it. Because last year, Scott Wheeler told us yesterday from The Athletic that GMs and people had a tough time getting out of Nashville, and with the draft, well, that was the draft, with free agency so soon, they just were like frustrated by that.
Yeah.
And so this year, maybe that's not exactly why, but this year it was decided that they wouldn't go. So nobody's going.
I had never heard that about that Nashville draft,
No, me either.
that was a problem. It was the first I'd ever heard of that. But
I think it had already been decided that they were going to do this year anyway. Maybe not. But why are they going back to it then if the consensus feels like, it's too much to travel?
I think because I don't think that is I think the benefit, pros and cons, I think they feel like they're missing an opportunity for everyone to be together and have that be a spectacle, I guess. I don't know. I like this idea of decentralizing it for just one very specific reason. Of course, because I nitpick everything. The thing I have hated about the NHL draft for years is teams, again, it's all about people having their moments. Like I've got 10, 12, 15 people from the front office parading up there, waiting for them all to get up, walk up there, line up, and then someone is going to say, and almost every guy who's speaking, they're not all GMs. Sometimes it's the director of player, whatever. But some executive from each team is going to thank their great loyal fans at their so-and-so pizza, fan party in the arena or in the square, whatever. Thank you to our fans back in blah, blah, blah. Congratulations to the cup winner, blah, 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 blah. And then here, by the way, here's our pick, some guy from Sweden you've never heard of. And nothing. Sweden you never heard of. I mean, I went too far. They're going to pick somebody.
Whoever they pick.
I just do not need.
I've never heard of whoever they pick.
I just do not need 15 people parading up there to stand there while one person holds a jersey and one person thanks everybody, and it's so annoying. It's just, I don't know. It's not. They're going to go back. I guess I don't know. But they're going to miss that. I don't know. I don't like the way it looks. It's a lousy television show. The NFL draft manages to be captivating. It helps that you have seen a lot of the guys play college football, but it moves. You don't have all this clutter, and
right.
The NHL just has too much there's just too much team there. I just do not. So one of my favorite things about Tim Murray was how few words he said when he would get up there, just like,
Buffalo selects Jack Eichel.
Done.
4
Thanks.
words.
No, thanks to the greatest fans in hockey. Congratulations to the mighty whoever won. Shut up. We all know who won. We're all happy for them. I don't need to hear.
Not.
I don't need to hear. Okay, what? I don't need
We're
to
not
hear.
even. Don't even mean it.
I don't need to hear 30 teams or 29 teams congratulate them. They got congratulated already. Your Twitter account sent out a tweet congratulating them when they won. I don't need you telling us. It's annoying. Sorry. You want to make the season
Is
shorter.
it 32 teams now, even?
Yeah, whatever. It's too many. Just too many. I'm leaving room for a Tim Murray to not thank anyone, I guess. So that's why I said 29. I don't even know. How many teams are there?
I think 32.
Yeah? Okay. Yeah, 16 in each now. Yeah.
Well, I'm not at DEFCON 1 on this topic like you are. But what annoys me...
No one is.
What annoys me also about all that is, like, it's sort of typical hockey in that it's just completely unoriginal. Like, every goal celebration is completely unoriginal. It's just like, go down the line and tap the gloves. Like, there's nothing else that's mandatory. There's only one way of doing anything in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that applies, I think, to what you're saying about the draft.
Absolutely.
The point about the football draft is so right. Imagine if every NFL team got up there when it was their turn and gave a speech.
And had, 16 scouts in trail.
Sure.
What are we doing here?
It's a longer speech because you're waiting for them to get up there.
Right.
But, yeah, I agree. It's annoying to me at the football draft, even when they sort of take a break and announce when the schedule is going to be announced, or like the different things they do. The charity stuff.
The thing they
whatever.
did this year, where they had the women come out there to announce the night that the schedule was going to be released. I thought I was going to get a Green Bay game or something. The draft's in Green Bay. I thought there's going to be something more than just, hey, let us announce when we're going to announce the schedule. What?
I know. Can we just get on with it?
What are we doing here? Anyway, yeah, it's never going to change. I mean, this has been, my anniversary is tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
And, Olympic year, this year there was the Four Nations face-off break. Next year is an Olympic year. It's always pushing into this time of the year. It's just how they draw it up. Pierre LeBrun, I mentioned him earlier, is one of these kingpin reporters who I've not heard say a word about Connor McDavid's future being in question. He's had for years. Middle September, the cup is awarded no later than May 31st, and then you've got some time to play with here. Instead of waiting until the third week of June to have the trophy awarded, and then here's the draft, here's free agency. Just it's terrible the way it's laid out.
I don't mind it so much for, I kind of like that everything comes up. I mean, we don't get the playoffs. So I'm ready for I wanted it to end so we can get to the good stuff, the draft and free agency and all that. And, I like that it comes up so fast. It's just more to me that how nonsensical it is that they're playing hockey into the summer.
Well, right.
We don't, and you don't need it at all for the competitive structure of the league. You're just the same, well enough. You're just the same after 50 games than you are after 82. 50 games is enough to determine who should go on.
Yeah.
You don't need all of what they have, but
I feel
like
you.
it.
I feel like this is you feeling that way specifically about this, like that you're waiting for this to come, you don't mind it, is a byproduct of the Sabres not being in the playoffs. Like if they were regularly on playoff runs, I think it would all feel rushed.
That's too hot. It's just ridiculous that hockey goes this late. Basketball, I guess, but play some of these games outdoors, maybe. Make it interesting. No, it's always been ridiculous to me that hockey goes so late. There. Now you know that. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. We will talk to Paul Hamilton about the finals and the Sabres coming up at 6 today. Lines open until then. This is WGR.
You're calm. That wondrous
guys, just a special group, and we got to be a dynasty now. It's 3 years in a row finals, 2 championships. This team is so special, and I just Stanley Cup champion. This never gets old.
Matthew Tkachuk. Here's another one. Too many people on the ice, season's too long, goes too late, too close to the draft. You just stop with dynasty.
We decide.
Well, you can have it. You can decide, but you'll be wrong. I mean, it's just like
right.
It has to be a dynasty. Do you know anything? Do you know anything? What that actually sort of means and how? What do we have in the Patriots? How many was that? 20 years? I mean, what's he talking about? 3?
Yeah,
just
3.
Come on,
3 in one of the 3 they beat the Sabres out for the last playoff spot by a point.
Well, that's a footnote.
But whatever. I mean, they went to the final. That's all that matters, really, in the end.
And lost.
Right.
I mean,
right.
Kansas City had a chance at 3 straight, but they've been in the AFC Championship 7 years in a row. Like they're close. Now we're talking.
Yeah, if Tampa had kept going, instead of Florida kind of really what effectively has happened is Florida's taken their place. If Tampa had kept going, not winning every year, but going, and they won 2 and won another one of the whatever, then I think you're in the ballpark. But I think he's rushing that a little bit.
Oh my God. Even if it is tougher, I mean, hockey's tougher probably than other sports. I'm not even sure I mean that. Maybe it is. You can't have dynasty after just back-to-back. Back-to-back is good, all right? It's very good. Congrats. Not even congrats. Mm-hmm. That's a genuine congrats from me. It's very good. Dynasty, stop it. There, we got another one in. Bam, bam, bam. Hockey.
We're setting a lot of things. We're setting a lot of things straight today.
We so are.
Yeah.
803-0550. Top 5 active players in sports to not have won a title. TSN just tweeted this. It might have been Brian Hayes. I haven't watched the video, but I see 3 images on the graphic. There's Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. This is WGR.
Senior NBA insider for ESPN, Shams Charania, is reporting that the Buss family is entering an agreement to sell majority ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers to Mark Walter, CEO and chairman of diversified holding company TWG Global. Jeannie Buss will continue to serve in her role as governor after the sale. The Buffalo Bills training camp schedule has been released. The first day of practice will be Wednesday, July 23rd at St. John Fisher University in Rochester. You can view the full schedule on our website, WGR550.com. The Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions as they defeated the Edmonton Oilers last night, 5-1 in Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final.
Here's Rostarinen. Back out, jump back and shot. Score!
Sam Bennett claimed the Conn Smythe trophy after his 15-goal performance in the postseason, including 5 in the final. After losing 5-4 last night in Worcester, the Bisons are back in action against the Woo Sox, looking to even the series. First pitch is set for 6:45 with a 6:25 pregame over on our sister station, The Bet 1520. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the
Bulldog, talking sports.
It's Mike Schopp.
He's Bulldog, talking sports. Call him on the telephone. Toss that bad Bulldog a bone. Bulldog, talking sports. Yeah.
On WGR.
All right, a heave and a ho, and away we go.
Sports Radio 550.
I don't want to hear me from 30 years ago. Thank you very much.
That's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
What a song.
What a song is right. I was on with Sal this morning, and Josh Schmidt, who produces the morning show and the Extra Point Show, dug that up, courtesy of, I think, Steve Seshan's website. And I had to admit to Sal, like, I don't know he's like, where did it come from? Like, who did it? I'm like, oh, God, this is bad. Like, I mean,
Sam Cooke.
I don't know.
How long ago was that?
I came up with the name. You remember Ken Kaufman? You were in the building when Ken still was working here, and he had a music studio down in a part of the building that we no longer even occupy. And I'm pretty sure that's him playing the piano. He may have written the whole thing, but I don't know anything, and I'm even guessing at that. But it would make sense if they had him do it. He was in the house over on Elmwood Avenue when I started.
He wrote the Celino and Barnes theme.
Okay,
that's maybe around the same time.
Maybe, yeah. So, but I don't have a, I don't know that. I don't know who I did at one time know who sang the vocals, but I don't know anymore. I don't remember. So I don't have the goods on that song, and I feel bad. Like, if anybody was going to know who that is, other than the people who actually recorded it or wrote it, it would be me, and I don't know.
Theme isn't the word. Jingle. The Celino and Barnes
that's
jingle.
A jingle. That's a theme.
This is a banger. This is I don't know what that is. That is something iconic.
Oh, I did not know that was going to be sprung on our audience after
Where's our song?
This morning's appearance. Yeah, well, Ken doesn't work here anymore.
That's correct.
Let me get Leroy Towns Band.
How many years do you have to put in to get a song? Right?
Yeah, then I came out of the box with that.
You did?
No, that's not right.
You didn't? No, that's not right.
Initially, we were using, I think, a Jim Schoenfeld cover version of "Hey Bulldog" by the Beatles. I feel like Hey Bulldog by the Beatles was used for an intro for my show initially, but I think it was the Jim Schoenfeld version of it. I think.
Well, listen to this right now. The what?
Right.
The Jim Schoenfeld.
Sabres defenseman, longtime NHL coach.
I know he
recorded
had
an
a
album.
record or something.
Yeah.
I knew that.
Yeah. Hey Bulldog is on the record.
And you took that as your theme. Well, it sort of makes sense.
I think.
It absolutely. It's a Beatles song sung by a Sabres great.
Yeah, while he was on the Sabres is when he made that album. Yeah.
Wouldn't he sing at, like, clubs?
I don't.
In his day?
More things I don't know about.
He's a one-timer. He's also a one-timer, I think.
Yeah.
I think he's only been on the show once. It was great. He was. Is he still? Where is Jim Sean?
I don't know, but he was with the Rangers organization
Hartford
when we
Wolfpack.
got to him. Yeah.
Hartford Wolfpack, right. And we talked to him about, the glory days, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I doubt it was about the Hartford Wolfpack.
Or his cover of Hey Bulldog. Although maybe it came up. I don't know. But anyway.
Wow. I'm sort of numb here. I'm sort of like, I was going to say a thing about the Lakers and a bunch of other stuff. Top 5 athletes who have not won a title.
No, please
sort of
find your footing because
stuck.
I don't know what to do with hearing that song.
Where's
again.
our song?
Especially the part there where I'm starting to talk.
What is?
Sorry, I had to spring that on there. I found it in the clip.
What is Sal's thing a jingle or a theme or what is it?
Sal's that's a theme song. The thing that Tom recorded.
It's a jingle. Like Sal doesn't use it when he's hosting, right?
No, I don't think
it's
so.
only for his guest spots.
Right, I think that's right. Yeah.
That sounds like I think that's a jingle. I don't say that disparagingly.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, I'm tapped out. I don't know.
A theme. Yours is a theme because it's like your show's song.
Introduction. Yeah, we played it I think every hour of a 5-hour show. There were no alternate opens. So you heard that jam 5 times a night. Yeah. No, there was no 11 o'clock open anyway. So 4 times a night.
In Rochester, I now think I remember that I had like sort of like a smooth jazz kind of a song.
That doesn't sound like you.
It really doesn't. I mean, that's not exactly my style of music. But it was a little bit like slow and low. It was not a banger. It was not
right.
It was not poppy or, snappy. It was kind of the opposite of that. I think I probably chose it. I don't think there were vocals.
Okay.
It was just sort of a voiceover.
Yeah.
Announcing the show. Nobody was singing my name.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever sung my name.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't start. And that's not a dare or an invitation or a threat or anything. Nobody.
Well, you want a theme song? I mean, somebody's going to.
I've never thought about it.
I mean, sing your name. I mean, that's how it's going to happen. Yeah,
maybe I don't want one.
I did not choose this either. It was presented to me, and it was great. I mean, but it wasn't like I was consulted. Really, it was just maybe I was like, but obviously it was going to be something upbeat, like energy.
Piano player steals it.
Oh yeah, he's killing it.
He just steals. He takes that thing right away from the vocalist.
Might have to be a dynasty to get a theme song now.
Well, I don't know. I don't want to put that label on us, but it's been a long run.
Did you see that Joe Brady retweeted the Panthers tweet back to back?
No, I did not.
Must be a Panthers fan, or he did it by mistake. That's all right?
Sure.
You're allowed to take your hockey loyalties, your other sports loyalties to your new markets, even when those markets have teams in those sports?
You definitely should be allowed. I think you're going to have to live with whatever flack comes, if there is any.
Is any flack coming here? Should there be any flack?
I never was for 1 second mad that Jack Eichel liked the New England Patriots. Like, I think I would have felt patronized if he had showed up here and we knew from past interviews or whatever, leading up to the draft, we're all huge Patriots fans or something. And he shows up here like, oh, no, I love the Bills. Get out of here. Like, just be real.
He could be real. He doesn't have to love the Bills. I'm not sure he ever flaunted.
I don't think he did either.
His love for the Patriots, if it's love. But, you'd want to be a little bit, read the room.
Sure. But I don't want to be lied to. So,
no. Well, that's different.
That is different, right. Brady doesn't have to tweet this. He can like the Florida Panthers. Hell, I like the Florida Panthers. Am I in trouble? I mean, I don't know. I like them. I mean, I'm not over here retweeting parade pictures or anything, but.
No, this would be what you do if it's your favorite team.
Yeah, right.
You would not retweet back-to-back if it weren't you just like them casually. You would just only do that if, that were your favorite team.
Or someone, one of your best friends works there maybe or something, and that's why they're your favorite team. But there could be a personal connection, is all I'm saying.
Could be, yeah.
I don't know enough about his personal life. Rightly so.
Rightly so, meaning you don't want to know more about it, you're saying?
I don't think I definitely don't need to.
Joe Brady?
Yeah, it's not an area I'm particularly interested in, really.
What was the one that made me crazy? Was it Matt Castle when he went to the Kentucky Derby with all the Patriots?
Yes.
That made me crazy.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, it's just so long ago, and I sort of feel like being mad about anything like that now is kind of ridiculous. But
yeah,
I was so hot.
I remember you were. I remember.
This is the Bills' new guy. They signed Matt Castle. Who else was here? I mean, they signed Tyrod Taylor also.
Mm-hmm.
And was EJ still here then? Weren't there three?
There were three.
Maybe?
Was it Fitz? Was Fitz still around? And then he got cut and they went with Castle and Tyrod?
I forget.
It might have been Fitz. There were definitely three. It was a three-man quarterback battle.
Matt Castle joins the Bills that offseason and is, pictured at the Kentucky Derby with Brady and all the Patriots. Like, come on, how can you root for this? I can respect somebody.
Was Eric Wood there?
Maybe. I don't remember if Eric Wood was there, but I don't think that would have bothered me so much. Maybe he wasn't. Maybe he wasn't in the picture.
At that time, anyway. But he's done that trip with, I think he's been involved in that.
It seems so old school to, not want players fraternizing with players on other teams. It just seems so old school, like completely like a relic of a thought. Because now, I mean, it's so different. But I like thinking that if you left the Patriots for the Bills, you would cut them off. You would be done with those guys. At least publicly, you would no, I'm trying to beat you now. Aren't those the people? Aren't those the players
You're talking yourself right back into this here.
The most, especially in Buffalo? Allen has transcended this. He's in these golf games with Rodgers and Mahomes, nobody really minds that if he's sort of friendly with them.
Right? Yeah, I definitely don't. I don't sense that there's any. I think we love that he qualifies, that he rates enough to be involved in that stuff, I think is more how we still feel. So I've never really heard any pushback on, his fraternizing with these people at all.
No, he gets criticized for nothing. So, I think that he's transcended. So that's, it's not the same thing either as just sort of hanging. If he was hanging with the Chiefs, why would he be doing that? It's not like he used to play for them, like the Castle example. But don't we love athletes the most? The guys that just burn to win. And when you burn to win, I think that kind of thing just doesn't really happen. Is that too broad a brush? I am being paid this much money to put my best effort into my performance, our team's success, all this. And I think most of that would go away. If you were like that. It sounds really type A what I'm describing, and maybe a little insane. But I just kind of want my guys, my favorite guys are just not going to be in that picture because they're just not going to, even if it's just for show, they're not going to expose themselves to
looking like they're friends
criticism
with the guys on the other team.
Yeah.
Right? That's it. Yeah, I do.
Jordan comes to mind.
Yeah,
because Jordan, they would say. This is Jeff Van Gundy, right? Who would say, he's just conning you. And players would sort of, fall for it.
Right.
And wanted him to like them.
Yeah, right.
While he was just planning to cut their throat.
He's using that against you. He's going to think that you guys are friends, and then he's going to murder you.
I mean, that sounds insane, too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
But
yeah,
it's all in the name of winning. It's all in the name of competition. Yeah. And I think that kind of thing is understood. And you don't have to like him, but if these mind games are happening because a player is trying to beat you, and these are tactics you could resort to in the name of beating the person, I think most of that is fair. You know, it's like all's fair in what's the phrase? Love and war.
Love and war. Yeah. I do. There's room to respect all this, but and you're not saying different. It's just I think it's so antiquated. I just don't know. I'm not saying I wouldn't appreciate a guy that's that driven, that personal, whatever it is. Like just not. I am not going to be friends with guys on the Ottawa Senators. I'm just not.
Right. I love that. Tell me that.
I would love it. I think it's a lot to ask in this day and age. I mean,
friends.
And it probably almost always was. I just think the way it all works now, the relationships you've got with guys, whether it's you came up together playing youth hockey, juniors, whatever it is, there's just so much crossover at the highest ends of all the sports. I know from hockey because we see guys occasionally that like, oh yeah, you played against that guy, you played against that guy, I remember that guy, and to not be like friendly with them seems nuts.
I don't want to say friends is out. I don't want to say that, but I think there is and I'm not sure it's been crossed or even what example we're really working with anymore, but there is a line you would draw with, players on Ottawa, whatever, players around the NHL. There's a line you would draw where you'd want to I don't know. I don't have an example.
I don't want to have my picture taken with you.
Okay.
Right.
Stick up for yourself, your team. Like seeing Reinhart. I'm numb to the ex-Sabres who have just continued to, stick it in our faces. Good for them by winning in other places. Like it doesn't even sort of bother me anymore. It's like just kind of par for the course. Oh, he scored 4 goals in sure he did. There's 4 ex-Sabres on that team. Of course there are. Like that's just sort of, I'm used to it.
Did you see the tweet from Joe this morning? It's 11 cups now from the guys that were on the 16-17 Sabres that have left. That's the run. A few of them are repeats here. Rodriguez, Reinhart, Kulikov, even
Montour.
He counts twice. Montour would be on the list. Starts with O'Reilly.
Leonard.
So
did he win?
No, he was not.
Okay, Eichel.
Yeah.
And there's one more. Okay. Well, anyway, like that just keeps happening, and I choose not to get worked up about it. Did you see the video today of Reinhart signing the Sabres jersey?
Yes.
And then just like sort of kind of waving at the guy, like sort of like sort of maybe not ticked at him, but just sort of like, come on.
Get this out of here.
And it's just such a low, lonely place. And we can't, with the Sabres, seem to ever, well, I mean, maybe someday it'll happen. You'd think it probably should, but get off the mat. I don't know. This has been an interesting ride the last 15 minutes. Speaking for many, I think, wouldn't it be something if the Sabres, in one way or another, showed some pride and sort of like stopped. This isn't really fair, but like just sort of being the butt of everybody's jokes somehow. Like if you owned this team, would you not be completely sick of it? Are you so far removed from what has happened to the team? And I'm always told that he's not. Like that he's in meetings and stuff. And maybe the reason, maybe the biggest reason they can't get out of their own way is that he's got opinions on players. And he owns a team. So who knows? But how could you possibly have this property that means so much to so many people like it meant to you when you bought it and just continue to settle for this sort of embarrassing existence? Where is the pride? Where is somebody? That doesn't feel really fair. Like when Adams went into his thing that got him into trouble about palm trees, he was coming from a source of pride. He was coming from a place where, like, yeah, this is harder than you think. It didn't come off right.
Right.
But that this is.
I've always felt like nothing he said was wrong. He just said it poorly, or really, really poorly.
Well, it's just that nobody wants to hear that you can't do this job because of the circumstances. Let's get somebody else in here. Like, right. This is the Pagula point. If he's going to talk, if my general manager is going to talk about taxes, I got 32 teams in this league. A lot of them have their own challenges, where climate or whatever it is. Like, I got to get somebody else who is just not going to settle for these, piss poor results because he thinks it's too hard. And especially when that goes public, like, right. That's it. He walked in the door and talked about Stanley Cups, and there will no longer be a money hindrance. Like, I'm here to win. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about. It turns out that 15 years later, it's incredibly hard to believe that it was ever said, because, I mean, now you've got a franchise that's just sort of like left in the dust or something. Who knows what it is? But where is that from? Can it just be anyone? Where is that from the Sabres? That we're just sick of being the punchline of this league. And I'm sure there are people over there, maybe most, who feel that way. Mm-hmm. And they don't have a platform, and they want to say it, but they don't have the chance to say it. But you just got to be so sick of all of it. Can just like a Minnesota win one year or something, where I don't have to feel anything? I don't have to see tweets of the best player on the team in a Sabres uniform 5 years ago, which is like a perennial state of affairs after the Stanley Cup is won. That'd be all right. Would you take Minnesota winning the Stanley Cup next year if they had no players on the Sabres that don't haunt your dreams? I don't know if I made a good point. It's just so pathetic. I mean,
yeah.
You could have the Panthers could have just had their party today. But what do I get? I get Sam Reinhart signing a Sabres jersey and just like throwing it back into the crowd.
And whoever's next to him, I can't remember the player because I didn't listen to it, but I read that someone next to him yelled out "Thank you, Buffalo" or something.
Right.
Like, just like there's
that's the chant.
There's the butt of the joke.
That should be their chant.
Yeah,
maybe. And Vegas's and St. Louis's teams that had also never won a championship before we gave them their best player. I mean, the Sabres did get Thompson.
Yeah, he's good.
He turned out all right. He has turned out all right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Where did this start? That song?
Yeah.
That song brought on some energy.
Brought on a lot, yeah.
Good.
Matt Castle made an appearance on the show.
Matt
Welcome back, Matt Castle.
Yes.
Eric Wood.
Oh, that was so infuriating. Go play for the Patriots. You want to go? Those are your friends? You want to go hang out with your Patriots friends? Great. Good for you. I mean, how'd that turn out? By the way,
he started the opener.
Technically, he did. That's the only thing he did that ever was anything for the Bills, right? He was traded.
Yeah.
Was he traded that year? Was he traded the same year?
I think so.
I think so too. All right. Well, you hadn't thought about him in a while, probably. 803-0550, Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
Senior NBA insider for ESPN, Shams Charania, is reporting that the Buss family is entering an agreement to sell majority ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers to Mark Walter, CEO and chairman of diversified holding company TWG Global. Jeannie Buss will continue to serve in her role as governor after the sale. The Buffalo Bills training camp schedule has been released. The first day of practice will be Wednesday, July 23rd at St. John Fisher University in Rochester. You can view the full schedule on our website, WGR550.com. And the Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions as they defeated the Edmonton Oilers last night 5-1 in Game 6. Sam Bennett claimed the Conn Smythe trophy after his 15-goal performance, including 5 in the final. That's your Paddock Chevrolet sports headlines. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Back to Barkov. To the empty net. Score! It's a hat trick. Sam Reinhart.
I've had enough. Not tomorrow, right? We don't have to hear more Sam Reinhart highlights tomorrow, I hope.
No, it's all over. Although we don't have basketball tonight, so I don't know. Maybe Joe will still be playing hockey highlights tonight.
No, it's just I feel like I'm being trolled.
Maybe it'll be your Yankees.
My Yankees.
Oh, sorry. I just saw on MLB Network that game is on Prime tonight. The Yankee game.
I have that.
Okay, good. Just so you know, you go looking. Where Prime.
Will the announcers be at the stadium?
Good question. I don't even know who. I don't think I've ever gone looking for a baseball game over there. Who's that going to be?
I don't know. I've watched a couple. I don't know who anybody is anymore. I'm sure they'll have a good face and a good name, though.
I feel like I've seen within the last 2 years. So it definitely isn't this year. Might have been last season or the season before. I found a game somewhere that I normally wouldn't. I don't think it was Prime, and it was Costas and Jim Cott, sorry.
Bob Costas and Jim Cott?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know what that was.
The Yankees games will be the Yes Network coverage with Michael Kay. So they basically just use the same stuff and just put it on Amazon Prime.
Oh, okay.
I'm fine with that.
I think I'd rather have that.
I'm fine with him. He's had moments, but he's been in that booth for 30 years, right? Like, I can listen to Michael Kay. I don't like the Yankees really, like as his custom, but I can listen to Michael Kay. Last night he had Garrett Cole. He's had Todd Frazier. There's always like this continuing parade of ex-Yankee analysts, it seems. I mean, Cole's still on the team, but injured. Like O'Neill and these other guys.
Right. Is Cohn a part of that
David
rotation? Because I know he does the ESPN Sunday night thing.
like him a lot.
Yeah, I know. That's why I thought of him. And I like hearing him too, but I feel like whenever I turn a Yankee game on, it's somebody else. Like Jeff Nelson maybe has been in there. I've just seen a lot of guys.
It's a lot. I think it is a lot of guys. Well, I was planning on watching the Tigers game. If I was going to be watching baseball, I don't know what my night's going to be yet. But if I were, it's Skubal for Detroit against Pittsburgh. I had it written to mention to you because, I've been watching the Yankees here lately, but the game in Detroit was postponed. It's already been rained out. So that's out. I doubt I'll make it to Justin Verlander tonight. It's Cleveland, maybe? I'm not sure that's right. At the Giants. He hasn't won a game yet this year, Verlander, so there's that. I doubt I'll make it to that one. I didn't make it to any preseason games in 1976 either. And we talked to Sal about the preseason and how the Bills played 6 preseason games in some of those years, like in the 70s.
Right.
I haven't found one yet against a team in their own division. I didn't think, like they played Tampa. Sal pointed out that the Bills play Tampa Bay in the preseason this year and the regular season. And I'm curious for how rare that is. I think it's something that's probably happened numerous times, but I'm not finding too many examples of it. And I'm also not finding division games, in the preseason. It might have happened. Not right now. I'm on the 76 Bills, though. That's why I mentioned 76. What a team! How well do you know your 76 Bills? They beat Kansas City in Week 4. How about that? The Bills continuing their regular season dominance of the Kansas City Chiefs in 1976, 50-17, to go to 2-2, and they lost every remaining game that year, culminating in a loss to the Colts, 58-20. A game that started at 2:00. Another thing you don't see anymore is 2:00 starts.
Really?
They used to have that.
Huh.
58-20, Bulldog. This was the definition of run for the bus, I might suggest.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. That's Ferguson. Is OJ hurt? Is he
No, he ran for 171 yards and a touchdown.
Oh, there you go. In a 58-20 loss?
Yes. Ferguson does not play. Morangi.
Oh, okay, but that's his era anyway. Yeah,
yes.
Okay.
20?
Morangi.
How does that happen? The world needs to know about this.
My dad loved Morangi.
O.J. Simpson, 28 for 171 and 1 in a 58-20 loss.
This sounds like the thing the Dolphins used to criticize
Yes.
the Bills about, which is like they don't really care about winning. They're just getting this guy his yards.
Yes.
That sounds like. Although Gary Morangi's your quarterback, what are you going to do about mounting a huge comeback? Maybe not much.
I don't know.
76. That's before Frank Lewis. Is J.D. Hill still out there catching passes for them?
Not in this game.
No, he's probably gone by then. He's on the team in 73, I remember when I went to that game in 73.
Yep.
76. I don't even know. Is Jerry Butler there yet? No, that's not till the 80s.
Chandler.
Okay, right. Oh, God. Wow, terrible job by me to skim over that. Ruben Gant?
Don't know. Is he in this box score? Yes.
Okay.
So, yes. 1 for 13. The Dolphins, I don't think I'd ever heard that before those America's Game episodes.
Right.
On the Super Bowl champions. And one of them, maybe it is 73, could have been 74. Miami won both years. And is it Dick Anderson, maybe, who made that? Somebody, Kuchenberg, probably a defensive player, but I think might have been Anderson, who said that about the Bills, that they weren't serious about winning. They were just trying to pad stats, which, that's a lot to say.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Probably not. I mean, again, like what functionally can you do well? Yeah, I don't. Ferguson had certainly his moments. He had some really, really big games. But if you're built to just run the ball, I mean, that might be how whatever the score is. Well, this is how we move the ball. We run. It's time consuming. And
it's like
if you
the current
keep
Bills.
scoring, we're in real trouble.
It's like the current Bills.
Right.
Run and stop the run, baby. Well, it's not so much stop the run, but it is run.
Yeah.
I was looking at Pro Football Network. They go by PFSN, Pro Football and Sports Network. Every day I get an interesting breakdown from them on an email. I'm glad I'm on their list. And it's something, it's about mock drafts or it's just, rankings. Today they sent one, every team's likeliest MVP winner. If Team X
has a great year,
has the MVP on it, who is the player likeliest to be?
Yeah.
I counted 14 that were not quarterbacks, like Justin Jefferson was one.
All right.
Myles Garrett might have been one. That if a Cleveland Brown is going to win the MVP, it would be, likeliest to be Myles Garrett. But there was also, earlier this week, I think maybe, they ranked defenses. And they put the Bills 18th.
That seems really low. They didn't have a good year defensively last year. It might have been the worst, various metric-wise year of McDermott's time here, I think. Because they gave up points, they gave up yards. They had some, the Lion game, the Ram game, which they lost, of course.
Yep.
They had some sideways performances.
Last year's defense ranked 9th in yards allowed and 3rd in points allowed. But I think a little bit misleading because of the takeaways. Like the Bills had the benefit, it's not all luck, but the benefit of just about best in both, fewest takeaways and most takeaways and fewest turnovers, I meant to say. But still, I mean, the last 6 years, so these are the 6 playoff years since Allen's rookie season, from 2019 to last year, their NFL rank in yards allowed. Okay, wait a minute. Sorry, I'm doing this wrong. I'm actually wrong. They were 17th in yards allowed last year and 11th in points allowed. What am I looking at? What's this over here?
Is that AFC or something, maybe? I don't know. But
point differential and yard differential. Okay, so that includes offense. Sorry. I'll tell you anyway, since I've gone this far.
That sounds more in line with what they're predicted to be this year then.
Yeah, bad mistake. From 18 to last year, rank in yards allowed on defense. 2nd, 3rd, 14th, 1st, 6th, 9th, 17th. And the turnover differential was 1. And I think maybe by a good amount. We know that. Well, I mean, everybody seems to love how they attacked their weaknesses on defense this offseason, right? I mean, they've done a lot. The corner has to work out. The draft pick has to work out.
Yep.
They didn't get to Jair Alexander. I'm not even sure they would have been interested in him. Baltimore signed him.
There was talk that they looked into trading for him and maybe just couldn't get to an agreeable price. And then, they went on with their offseason and really, I think Tre'Davious White probably eliminated them from consideration for signing a player like Alexander.
Yep, he's their version of that.
Yeah, to some extent, yeah. There's even been some injuries, too, so it sort of works. Yeah, I'm like lost in looking at teams trying to figure out which teams wouldn't have MVP quarterbacks.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I'll bet Indianapolis is one. It would be Jonathan Taylor would be.
I think that's right.
Would be their guy. You mentioned Jefferson, right?
Yep. I'll get the list back out.
The Saints are the next team I got to. Like who's important on the Saints that I'm not thinking of?
Kamara. He's one.
Yeah.
JSN in Seattle. Can you imagine Jackson Smith and Jigba winning the NFL MVP award?
No. Not even for a second.
Not right?
No.
But can you imagine Darnold winning? Yes.
Yeah.
I disagree with this one. I like JSN.
Yeah, I was going to say, Darnold there, he was a consideration last year. Like, if he has that year again,
that's right.
And he would almost have to be having that year for Jackson Smith and Jigba to be considered a candidate, and Darnold would blow him out of the water.
For JSN to be even thought of for the award, Darnold is probably killing it.
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's a bad job there.
Raiders, Brock Bowers.
Okay. Yeah, that works. Although
Geno Smith.
It's the same point. It's the same point.
If Brock Bowers.
Yeah, we're trying to.
What is happening? Well, I mean, you have to pick somebody, right?
Sure.
You might think they all should be quarterbacks. Maybe that's right.
Right.
What happened to Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Patrick Mahomes if Brock Bowers is winning the NFL MVP?
I think running back is can be independent of the quarterback. That's what Barkley was so good last year that got legs. That's why I mentioned Jonathan Taylor. The first name you mentioned was Jefferson. Same thing. Like if Jefferson goes off, has some incredible year, that means J.J. McCarthy smashed, and he's an MVP candidate. I think. The quarterback is always going to. It's almost got to be a running back or a defensive end who has 25 sacks or something, right? Like that's what it's going to take. 2,000 yards, 20 touchdowns from some running back, or 25 sacks from a defensive end. If a receiver has, Tyreek Hill was flirting 2 years ago with 2,000 yards, you're going to end up deferring to the quarterback. I think.
Yeah, probably. I like the effort here.
Sure. Yeah, I'm not trying to rip it apart. I ended up, that's kind of what I'm doing. It's not how I set out to do it. I really earnestly thought I want to look at teams and decide who doesn't have a quarterback that would fit. But if it's a receiver, that elevates the quarterback almost immediately.
The running back point is the right point. And Barkley was in the conversation last year with 2,000 yards and 13 touchdowns, and he didn't win. Did he even come close? It was Allen, it was Jackson, they were close. Was Barkley maybe third? I don't remember.
I think he was third.
So that may be as close as you're going to get. But because we have these elite quarterbacks, what's happening to them We just had last year as an example. I thought this last year, and it didn't end up happening, but that there could be fatigue with the quarterbacks always win stuff to the point where a voter might want to. I think it sort of makes sense. I think a voter would want to convey that I know the game is about more than just the quarterback. And you could do that with your MVP vote. Last year would have been a year to do it, though. And majority didn't. Paul Hamilton coming up at the top of the hour. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
In sin so long, all the feels are gone. Fella stopped me on the street last night, said everything's alright. Roller coaster, make it through the day upright. It seems your meal ticket is gone, but life goes on. I could never imagine something better. Yeah, right. Now you're cooking on high heat in the middle of the street. Roller coaster, take me to a better time. Let's go! All sing your high line with the roller coaster of life. Yeah. It's time to all choose your timeline on the roller coaster of life. You seem to easily forget how to place your bet. When everyday life gets you down, you gotta steal the crown. Got to own it. Don't bitch and moan about it, please. God forbid you scrape your knees, and it's nothing to sneeze at. Oh, I've told you over and over again. You gotta get both hands around it and make your own plans. Roller coaster, it's taking over, it's about time. Oh, all sing your high line on the roller coaster of life. You've got to all choose your timeline with the roller coaster of life. I want to go down the rabbit hole, down the rabbit hole.
Everyone that supported me and helped me get to this point, there's nothing, words can't put this into reality, how great it feels, and such an incredible group. Everybody wrote us off from start of playoffs. They had everybody beating us in every round, and we just had that fire, and we knew we had something special. It's incredible. It's incredible to be part of this group right now.
Yeah.
Who's going to throw up first?
I winced last night when I heard that live.
Marchand.
And I just I'm making a face again right now. I go, what? What? Wait, what are you talking about exactly?
Can anybody ever tell one of these players that talks like that, Brad Marchand, Travis Kelce, how ridiculous it is and like be able to easily prove it? Can anybody ever do that? Do they ever find out? Does the reality ever matter? Does the truth matter? Like, does they ever find out that actually, like, nobody did that? What's closer to the truth? Everybody picked against Florida every round, or no one did. I mean, which is closer to the truth?
No one picked against them.
Right.
It's got to be closer to the truth. I thought all along they had to be the team that they were the only team in the East I thought that could beat Dallas or Edmonton. Right, and that was like when the playoffs began. That's the only team that's going to beat either one of those teams.
They were at worst slight underdogs,
or Colorado too.
But anybody.
Yeah.
At worst, they were a slight underdog against Edmonton. I don't think they would have. I don't know if they were against Toronto. They got down 2 games.
Yeah, they got down 2 games and down 2-0 in game 3. So, like, I don't know. Were people in that moment saying the Florida Panthers are done? They looked like they were in real trouble, but they won that game, and they just went on a rampage.
Got to get this in, just because we were talking earlier. I mean, I'm sure it was riveting about, like, players who are fraternizing with players on other teams and how maybe that seems like it's commonplace now, but is it right? Had a little bit of conversation about that. Brian Mazurowski just retweeted maybe it's like a Senators account or what, I don't even know if it is, but somebody made a point about Brady Tkachuk talking about like in an interview how excited he is to be in Florida, what a night it's going to be. I mean, he's Ottawa's captain.
Yeah.
How would that go over?
I mean, it's his brother.
It's his brother.
I think you're a crazy person if you're annoyed about that.
Really?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Yes.
It's crazy.
Yes.
To be annoyed.
It's his brother. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's nuts.
Okay. If it's not his brother, if it's like Alex Tuck saying it.
It's funny that this came up. I didn't get around to mentioning it when we were talking about your hang up with Castle and the Kentucky Derby from whenever that was.
Yes.
Was that 2013?
It might have been 1982.
Anyway, I saw a picture last night. Well, from last night. I saw it this morning of Patrick Laine with clearly a champagne, beer-soaked, sweat-soaked Barkov standing in like a hallway outside the dressing room somewhere in the bowels of the arena. And like the countrymen, it was something in the caption,
wow, okay.
Patrick Laine's here to congratulate his fellow,
Finn.
Right. And all right. I mean, sure. But that's closer. That's more to me, brothers. Yeah. Don't get out of the way of the brothers.
Can anybody be a part of the Panthers celebration if they were from the same country as one of the players?
Yeah.
I think that means everybody in the league is maybe at the party.
Yeah.
We're all rooting for you, Florida.
I mean, I don't know the history of how close they are. I mean, they're rock star players from Finland, so it's a pretty small fraternity. But I saw that and thought, I wonder if anybody's annoyed about that.
You're annoyed by that because it's South Beach, and they're not going to be in Edmonton for the same party. It's the complete opposite of scenes, Edmonton, Alberta, and South Beach. So I guess the Elbow Room is the place to be. And what percentage of NHL players would have wanted to be there last night or tonight? 98? Hey, I'm Canadian, so is Reinhardt. I think I'm in. Paul Hamilton, I'm not going to ask Paul that question. Paul after sports on WGR.
Senior NBA insider for ESPN Shams Karani is reporting that the Buss family is entering an agreement to sell majority ownership of the Los Angeles Lakers to Mark Walter, CEO and chairman of diversified holding company TWG Global. Jeannie Buss will continue to serve in her role as governor after the sale. The Buffalo Bills training camp schedule has been released. First day of practice will be Wednesday, July 23rd at St. John Fisher University in Rochester. You can view the full schedule on our website, WGR550.com. Florida Panthers are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions as they defeat the Edmonton Oilers last night 5-1 in Game 6. Sam Bennett claimed the Conn Smythe Trophy after his 15-goal performance throughout the postseason, including 5 in the final. Those are your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Paddock Chevrolet, celebrating 90 years of being your hometown dealership. I'm Joe Cali for WGR Sports Radio 550.
He has the facts to back up his opinions.
Enough just pooped his pants.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Yes, the hockey season does eventually end. Last night was it. Florida in 6. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here. Paul Hamilton along on the Westshore Hotline. Paul, I remember you saying earlier in the playoffs, I don't remember exactly when, but, playoffs are the playoffs, but I'd like some more close games, right? Where are all the close games? There might have been a stretch where everything was kind of one-sided. And how did this finals go for you? I mean, it was a great matchup that we all loved, and there was a good comeback. It's not too far away from like a Florida beatdown, though, in the end.
In the end, yeah. The first couple games were overtimes, but then it got pretty one-sided.
Yeah, I didn't care who won the series. I was just hoping for an Edmonton win so we'd get a 7th game. That's all I was looking for, and then whoever won the 7th game, fine. I was just hoping Edmonton would get back to being Edmonton, where the last couple of games they just weren't. It was just the Florida Panthers are just so good, and they just finally just smothered them and took over, and were able to win the Stanley Cup because of it. But for the most part, I thought it was a pretty good series until maybe the last 2 games.
Yeah, that's where I end up. And in fact, I mean, the trophy being on the line last night shades how I would feel about that game. It was, but very much similar to the game on Saturday. Saturday was the worst game of the series to me by far. I just thought it was Florida's game the whole night, and last night was the same. But knowing that the cup was going to be there, sort of, keeps my interest. Saturday, I walked away from it. It's just like, this isn't happening tonight.
Game 3 was 6-1, wasn't it?
Yeah, but you know what Game 3 had was all the nasty stuff.
Okay.
In the third period that sort of kept like, this is a series now, like that kind of. So it didn't feel like it had gotten away from anybody. It just sort of escalated and got stupid. But yeah, as it turns out, I think Florida very much proved to be the better team, Paul.
Yeah, no, I was actually, for that game, I was actually in Denver and thought, well, time to find a place to go watch the game because there it starts at 6, which is nice, which means the game's over by at a decent time. So, it was interesting in another way, so to speak.
Well, how impressive is what Florida has accomplished here? 3 Cup finals in a row, 2 wins in a row. Not a few changes, right? Nate Schmidt, Seth Jones, Marchand. I mean, significant deadline guys in Jones and Marchand. Schmidt was there all year. He was an off-season replacement, basically for Brandon Montour, I guess, as it turns out. Not that he played those minutes. Montour was a much bigger part of that team last year, but still, he was there all year. But really, the guts of that team is still on display, and I don't know, man. Like, they just check all the boxes.
They're just so good. And I mean, let's face it, Toronto kind of had them on the ropes.
Yeah.
2 games to none and had the lead in Game 3. And Florida came back to win that game, I believe, in overtime, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's just they just have all the ingredients. I mean, they didn't have the goaltending in Bobrovsky until a couple of years ago when wasn't even the starter, and then he came in and played like the Bobrovsky of the regular season finally in the playoffs, and he hasn't looked back ever since. I mean, he's just been great during this. So you've got goaltending, you've got scoring, you can grind it out. They can play any way you want to.
Yeah.
If you want to grind it out, let's grind it out. If you want to go end to end, let's go end to end. We can do it any way you want to do it, and do it well. And when I look at their team, and then I look at the Buffalo Sabres, it just illustrates to me how far away the Buffalo Sabres are from being that type of a team that can win it all.
Well, that makes sense. Bennett, for you, Paul, so his contract is up. What a unusual kind of Conn Smythe trip or winner. I mean, he's the first player ever to win that award after playing 10 years in the league without having won another big trophy. That shows you it's the stars of stars who usually win the Conn Smythe. And, the most goals in the playoffs, or road goals, maybe was it a record even, whatever it was. What is his value going into free agency for you?
It's crazy to me that Ekblad and Bennett and Draisaitl and Reinhart are all been in the league 10 years. 10 years.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the first year of the Sabres tank 10 years ago, because they weren't tanking for Reinhart, but they were tanking. It was the year before Eichel, and they were tanking to get the top pick, knowing that we're going to do the same thing the next year, and that's when we're going to tank for McDavid. But they already had started their tanking, and that was 10 years ago, and it just boggles my mind to think it was. And all those players have turned into, the four I mentioned have turned into great players.
Bennett is the one that took the longest. I've mentioned this a couple times today already. I was on with Sal this morning talking about him. Out of that draft, he was the most busty-looking, biggest bust candidate, I guess. He was firmly in the NHL, but his years in Calgary, there's not a lot there. And even Paul, Florida, I mean, he's 51 points this year is a career high. He had 28 goals a few years ago in Florida, 25 this year. So that's not nothing, but he's going to get a contract that I think I'm a little worried if a team doesn't have the right setup for him to play the role he's in there behind Barkov, because he's going to get paid like a number one center, I think, in free agency, and he is not that guy. At least he never has been, and this long into his career, I'd be surprised if he suddenly became that player.
And if it were me, we've talked about this. He'd be the number 2 target if I were Kevin Adams, and with him and maybe Marchand, you're taking a chance because of the age, and you just never know how that's. I mean, when does it end for a player? For some players, they go a long time and can go. Look at Marchand at 37 or 38, whichever he is. And, we talked about Tuck's contract a little while ago. When he signs his new deal, he'll be 30. Well, if you give him a 7 or 8 year deal, you're taking him to 37 or 38 years old. So you just don't know when it is. But I still, with what he does in the playoffs, he just for 2 years in a row now has just come up huge when it's time to play, and he's. He can play at both ends of the rink, especially in the playoffs. I think he gets a little bit tighter defensively in the playoffs maybe than he does in the regular season, but it's not like he's bad in the regular season. But if you're expecting 100 points out of him, you're going to be disappointed. That's not what you're going to get. But, I just like players who, when it's on the line, the biggest games, they come up with the biggest games when it matters. And he does that. Now, I still would say Ekblad would be my number 1 priority to play with power. And it seems, with what we're reading, that maybe Ekblad might be the guy who's available. It seems like maybe Florida will re-sign Bennett and maybe not re-sign Ekblad, just by some of the things I've been reading along the way. And so it could be – I don't think they can sign them both, honestly. Unless
they both agree to hometown discount, whatever, right? We want to keep the band together, so I'll take $1 million less or $2 million, whatever. That might be out there. It's been, I think, pretty widely circulated. They're tight. So maybe that could happen. I mean, I don't know. Business is business, we know. But
I'd be more interested in the really good defensemen to try to help the young defensemen here, especially because if the Sabres don't improve drastically defensively, they're not going to make the playoffs. They can't be 29th in the league and make the playoffs. They just can't, even though they can score goals, certainly. I mean, they were 4 goals from being 6th in the league in goal scoring this year. But that's not their problem. Their problem is keeping the puck out of the net.
Paul Hamilton with us. Doesn't sound like many people know too much about where things are headed with Connor McDavid, Paul. So I'm not asking you to know something that none of us knows either. But now it's such a tight window, right? Like the season ends on June 17th. Free agency is July 1st. In McDavid's case, with a year left, that's just sort of the starting period for a new deal. I feel like Edmonton could very well go to Connor McDavid and say, we'll give you anything you want. Blank check, record money, whatever it is, anything you want, name it. In an effort to keep him, of course, which is what they'd want to do. But I'm not sure McDavid would say yes, right? Because wouldn't everybody else make him the same offer if it got to that point? So he'll be interesting here in a few weeks.
Yeah, he's going to get whatever he wants. So it's like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to be? And you now have made the Stanley Cup Finals 2 years in a row with Edmonton, which I think would help the Oilers' case. I always wondered how he felt being in Edmonton, especially when the draft lottery came up and all of a sudden the Edmonton Oilers got the pick. I mean, the look on his face got flushed, as did Gary Bettman's, and
mine.
He wanted to be a Sabre.
I mean,
so. He wanted to come play in Buffalo. Remember that game that Erie played here at the arena, and he came for the press conference, and being close to here, that's what he was looking at. But it's a number of years later now, 9 years later, and they're very, very close. So I haven't heard anything at all that he's unhappy in Edmonton or doesn't like being there. And with them now just on the cusp of doing it, I would think he's okay with it, but of course I'm not his agent.
Well, if he's not, willing to take their deal, then he becomes a trade candidate.
Sure, and don't forget the Gretzky thing in Edmonton was a little bit different. That was basically the league going to Peter Pocklington and saying, we need Wayne Gretzky in the United States. Sorry. You're going to get a lot of money in return, which Pocklington liked.
He needed, yeah.
He needed. And we need him as a league in Los Angeles. So that's different than what we're talking about here with McDavid.
Well, Paul, we're heading for the draft. You're talking about Ekblad and Bennett. Like, I mean, do you feel like the Sabres? That sounds very foreign, I think, to maybe a lot of our listeners and to me.
Understandable.
I can't imagine a world where those guys take our call, but
sure.
I'm very demoralized. So, it's hard for me to get invested in the idea of top shelf players, 2-time cup winners, like going, oh yeah, no, Kevin Adams is on the phone. Sure, I'll talk to Buffalo. I'm being defeatist, admittedly, about it. How realistic do you think any of that is?
Yeah, that's the caveat we've said all along. I understand we all understand that it's a long shot that any of the top free agents would want to come to a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for 14 years and is just still floundering around. They're really, how much hope is there right now if you're looking at the Buffalo Sabres from the street? But stranger things have happened. I mean, Kyle Oposo was the number 1 free agent of his class because Stamkos signed before free agency started, which made Oposo the number 1 free agent, and the Sabres got him. Johnny Gaudreau was signed with Columbus as the number 1 free agent. Nobody thought that would happen. So stranger things have happened. But no, obviously, I would not think the Buffalo Sabres are on top of anybody's list right now, especially with, You look at the Sabres, and if you hear, well, wait a minute here, we're hearing through Elliot Friedman that Byram might be traded, and Tuck might be traded, and Peterka might be traded, and what? I mean, honestly, I'm just going to say they cannot afford to lose Alex Tuck.
Right.
He does so many different things and does them well for this team. They cannot afford to lose him off this team, or it's just going to be 10 steps backwards. He's part of the team that, if you want to say they're going to improve, or they improved at the end of the year, he was a big part of that in every way, whether it's penalty killing, whether it's scoring 36 goals, whether it's leadership. They just can't afford to lose him. And, so if you're a free agent, you're looking at, well, what's going on there? Are these guys going to – and if Buffalo loses all three of those guys, what do you think Thompson and Dahlin are thinking?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I'm worried about Tuck, and you know this because we've talked about this at locker cleanout. I was scared by the way he took the question about his future.
Yes.
And so that doesn't have to meet. A listener pointed out to me that maybe that's just the start of negotiation, right? He didn't want to portray that he's so eager to sign, put anything in front of me and I'll do it. So okay. I sure hope that that's right, because Paul, it feels to me, yeah, I agree 100%. I know it's never going to be one move means turn the lights out, but if the guy that is the face of the "we want guys who want to be here" campaign doesn't want to be here anymore,
who's been a Sabre fan his whole life,
right? Then what am I even doing here? It just seems really, really tough. I hope it doesn't come to that.
And maybe Alex Tuck is also, he's got another year. He might say, look let's see how this is going to go. You brought in Yarmo. He's a guy who's been a GM for 11 years. He brings some experience here. He brings some guts to the position that, maybe the Sabres might be able to pull some things off. We don't have to do it this year. There's still 1 year left on the contract. So he might say, all right, let's see how this year goes. And we'll talk to you next summer.
Then it becomes on the Sabres to decide whether they want to live that way, right? Because that
because
gets dangerously
then you
close.
may lose them to free agency for nothing.
Right.
Paul,
so you never know.
Sorry, sort of on this topic before you go, you want to mention, or I'll just tee you up here, the article on J.J. Peterka, a lot of this and sort of along the same lines.
Yeah, I was curious, and I didn't remember him being, I want out of here, or I'm unhappy.
Yeah, he didn't set off any warning flares on locker cleanout.
So I went back and listened.
Tuck did, but not.
Yeah,
Peterka.
I went back and listened. And I was right. There was nothing in that end-of-the-year press conference that told me he wants out of here. He talked about Lindy Ruff. He was fine in talking about Lindy Ruff. He talked about, how he can get better. It was more we. He even talked about his
body language.
And everything. And he said, I get frustrated. I totally agree on that. And I'm just trying to have my body language be better, more positive, is what he was saying. And you remember a couple of years ago, he'd score a goal, and he was so happy. He was like a little kid out there. And that changed this last year. He'd score, and he just, he had a scowl on his face. And he's always, available to the media all the time, never says no. But when you talk to him now, he's basically looking at the floor and just looks miserable, Not that he hates the person he's talking to. He just looks miserable, you know. And so is that the frustration, going out? But there's nothing. So, is it Ruff? Is it Adams? Is it Pagula? Is it the losing? But he hasn't been here for all that much losing yet. It's not like some of the others that have been here 6-7 years.
Yeah.
Or is it already to a point now? Is it the contract? Has there, when you look at the negotiation, is that a problem right now? Is Peterka and his agent Alan Walsh, are they upset with the offer? Are they at an impasse? And is that it? That could be it. I'm just grasping at things right now. But I was listening to that, and I was just thinking to myself, There's just nothing here that indicates to me that he's unhappy.
Paul, thanks for your time.
Yeah, no problem, guys.
All right. We'll be hearing a lot more from Paul in the days ahead here. The NHL draft is a week from Friday, round 1, anyway, of the NHL draft. Paul's appearances with us here brought to you by Equitable Advisors. Planning for your future is about more than just money. Let Equitable be your guide. And by Relax Honda. Relax, we got this.
How do you like my fencing shirt today?
Oh, I like the colors a lot. I did not notice what was on it. So I didn't look that closely, but I when I walked in, I meant to say something about the rainbow there. I like that.
Ontario Provincial Fencing Championship. I was at Canada Games Park recently, and this event was being held there. And as it happens, my nephew is a champion fencer at the junior level in Ontario. So had to have it.
Good shirt.
And I've got a story about it. I'll just make this real short. So I wore the shirt one day last week, and as I got to the building in the lobby, there was a woman in the lobby looking around like she wasn't sure where she was, and I made eye contact with her, and I said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "I'm just not sure where I parked." And I asked her what she was here for. There are 10 or so businesses down there, and she told me, and I said, "Well, I don't know, but probably you're in the front, so I'd go that way." And then she thanked me, and then she looked at me again and said, "Do you fence?" And I said, no, my nephew does. And she said, "I was a fencer in college."
All right.
What are the odds?
Pretty slim.
I mean, was everybody a fencer in college? Not that many people were fencers in college.
I don't think so.
But this person I ended up in a conversation with had that to say. Sal joined us earlier with the announcement of the Bills training camp schedule. We got into that and more. Stay tuned for Sal, Mike Schopp, and the Bulldog, WGR